is 6 a.m.
Coming up on the program today, Nigeria's political parties are turning their attention to the 2027 elections, with the peace accord placing renewed focus on the responsibility of political actors to protect the country's democratic process. As parties begin positioning for another major electoral contest, the effectiveness of the peace accord now would depend on whether it commits amends can translate into peaceful campaigns, respectful electoral rules, and acceptance of legitimate outcomes. Flooding in Abuja is once again drawing attention to the challenges of urban planning and sustainable development in Nigeria's capital, as rapid population growth and expanding construction continue to put pressure on drainage systems and other infrastructure. The reoccurring flooding is raising questions about whether the city is adequately prepared to manage its growth. A former military ruler, Ibrahim Babangida, turns 85. Attention is returning to one of the most consequential and controversial periods in Nigeria's political history. His years in power between 1985 and 1993 were marked by major economic reforms, political restructuring, the creation of new states and local governments, and a prolonged transition program that ultimately ended without a return to civil rule. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike has praised President Bola Tinubu for allowing what he described as a free and fair election that resulted in Ademola Adeleke's victory in the Osun State governorship poll. The comment is significant, coming from a prominent member of the opposition-aligned political camp, and comes after an election that attracted intense political competition and security concerns. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the morning edition. Many thanks for joining us. I am Marian Delepe.
And I am Ugochukwu Madumere. Thank you for choosing to start your day with us.
Yes, indeed. This is Real Broadcasting Network, and we are live on your radio, Real 99.3 FM. And the next 3 hours will bring you the stories making rounds across Nigeria and across the world. So you have to stay connected.
Absolutely. Join us on our social media platforms at The Real Media NG. We're live on radio at Real 99.3 FM. We're also streaming live on YouTube at The Real Media NG, where, of course, you can join in on any of the conversations we're going to be initiating on the program today at The Real Media NG. Don't forget sports, newspaper review, insightful commentaries, business, and a whole lot more on the program this morning. The morning edition begins now.
Right away. Let's bring you updates in the world of news, what's happening in Nigeria and across, bring you up to speed right now as the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has declared the jungle justice to be homicide, warning Nigerians against taking the law into their own hands. The statement comes amid continued incidents in which suspected criminals are attacked or killed by mobs before they face investigation and trial. The police position reinforces the principle that allegations of crime must be handled through the justice system rather than by vigilant groups. It also raises questions about public confidence in law enforcement and what can be done to prevent communities from resorting to mob justice and when they believe formal justice is too slow or ineffective.
More than 20 people have been reportedly killed and several others injured in a fresh attack in Plateau State, adding to the continuing security concerns in communities affected by recurrent violence. The latest incident has once again exposed the vulnerability of residents in parts of the state to deadly attacks. The killings are expected to renew calls for stronger intelligence gathering, faster security responses, and better protection for vulnerable communities. Beyond the immediate loss of lives, repeated attacks continue to deepen fear, disrupt livelihoods, and threaten the stability of affected communities.
Crude oil prices have extended their gains while most stocks are falling as hopes for a quick resolution to the crisis in the Middle East appear to be fading. The movement in the market reflects growing uncertainty over the potential impact of the conflict in global energy supply and economic activities. For Nigeria, higher crude prices could provide some support for government revenues and foreign exchange earnings, but prolonged geopolitical tension could also increase pressure on inflation and the cost of doing business. The performance of the stock market, meanwhile, reflects concerns about what continued instability could mean for investors and the wider economy.
The West African Examinations Council, WAEC, is facing criticism over its 2026 examination results, with allegations of grading anomalies raising concerns among candidates, parents, and education stakeholders. The controversy has put renewed attention on the reliability of the examination process and the way candidates' results are assessed. For students whose university admissions and future opportunities depend on their WAEC results, any uncertainty over grading can have serious consequences. The pressure is now on the examination body to address the concerns raised and provide clarity on how affected candidates can seek redress where they believe their results do not reflect their performance.
Former soldiers are set to protest today at the Ministry of Defense over unpaid pension arrears, bringing renewed attention to the concerns of retired military personnel. The planned demonstration reflects frustration over outstanding payments and the financial difficulty that delayed pension can create for veterans. The protest also raises broader questions about the government's obligation to honor the entitlements of people who served in the nation's armed forces. For many retirees, pension payments are essential for meeting basic expenses and healthcare costs, making delay particularly difficult at this point.
Outside the shores of the country, President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has welcomed the discovery of oil near the mouth of the Amazon River, describing the find as significant for the country. The discovery could strengthen Brazil's position in the global energy market and potentially provide additional revenue for the government. But the development also comes with environmental concerns because of the location's proximity to the Amazon region. Brazil will now face the challenge of balancing the economic opportunities presented by the discovery with the need to protect one of the world's most environmentally sensitive areas.
UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham says the United Kingdom support Ukraine 100% following a warning from Russia involving drone activities. Now, his comments come as the war continues and Britain maintains its backing for Ukraine amid ongoing Russia attacks. The statement reinforces the UK's position as one of Kyiv's key supporters, while the latest Russian warning highlights the continued risk of escalation. The conflict continues and remains a major security concern for Europe as countries weigh continued military and political support for Ukraine.
Iran's top negotiator says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the United States meets Tehran's demands, keeping pressure on one of the world's most important energy routes. The demands include major changes to U.S. military and economic policy towards Iran, making an immediate reopening of the waterway increasingly uncertain. The Strait of Hormuz carries a major share of global oil shipments, meaning a prolonged disruption could have consequences far beyond the Middle East. Higher energy prices could increase pressure on countries that depend on imported fuel, while uncertainty about the waterway continues to weigh on global markets.
Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has won his second term with about 60% of the vote, securing another mandate despite a contentious election process that included reports of violence and disruptions during vote counting. His main challenger, Brian Mundulibi, reportedly received about 38%. The result gives Hichilema another term to pursue his economic agenda now including efforts to strengthen the country's mining sector and address economic pressures. However, the election has also raised concerns about political tension and the conditions under which opposition parties compete.
Disney and its ABC division have sued the U.S. Federal Communications Commission over the regulator's early review of 8 ABC-owned television stations' broadcast agents' licenses. Disney argues that the unusual early review is an unlawful attempt to retaliate against the network over content critical of President Donald Trump. The legal battle has raised wider questions about media freedom, government regulation, and the independence of the broadcast licensing process in the United States. The FCC says it is investigating potential regulatory violations while Disney is seeking to stop the early review and protect its stations from what it describes as politically motivated interference. Well, that's the news for you from the local and the international scene. We now switch gears to something absolutely mind-blowing, Marion.
Now, Ugochukwu, I'm going to quickly ask you, did you see the photographer now who declined to continue photographing an event he was billed to photograph as his professional service when he discovered that the bride is only about 15 years old?
Wow. Tell us all about it.
We'll bring you up to speed with that very particular situation in a moment. Don't go away.
Every street has a story. Every struggle carries hope. Every dream deserves a voice. We walk where the people walk. We honor our culture. We tell the stories that matter. This is not just news. This is your story, your voice, your network. Real Broadcasting Network. We the people.
Welcome back. It's still the morning edition, and we're talking about a particular story that's got a lot of attention now. I did ask Ugochukwu if you saw it, but I'm asking you now. Did you see it? A Turkish wedding photographer has resurfaced online after an incident in which he refused to photograph a wedding when he discovered that the bride was only but 15 years old. The photographer, Onu Abayak, did not just walk away from the job. His refusal now led to a confrontation with the groom. And the argument eventually became very physical, leaving the groom with a broken nose.
And it's not every time a photographer walks away from a job. Well, this one happened in Malatya, Eastern Turkey. Albriak had been hired to photograph the wedding and arrived at the venue where the wedding photographs were supposed to take place. According to his account, the groom had previously visited his Studio One alone. So Albriak had not met the bride before the wedding day. So you understand the trajectory or the history of the story. When he arrived and saw her in her wedding dress, he immediately felt that she was too young. Asked about her age because he suspected that she was a child. Now, according to the photographer, she initially said she was 15, and then she said she was 16. The photographer said he could see that she was frightened and trembling. And that was the point at which he decided that he was not going to take the photographs and said, you know what? I'm done.
I mean, this is the moment where the story even takes a turn, because Abarak now was not simply saying he had changed his mind about the job. He was taking a position against the marriage itself. So there's one thing to say, I'm not going to be part of your celebration of having a child bride. I'm standing against it. I'm not only putting down my camera, I'm going to stand here and ensure that this ceremony doesn't even take place. I mean, that's quite a stance now. He said he could not photograph a child as a bride, and that he was prepared to walk away from the money rather than participate in what he considered child abuse. And the groom, guess what? However, apparently did not see it that way. He felt it's my decision, it's the bride's decision, the bride's family and everyone signed to it. You have no right whatsoever to even do that. Now, according to report, he told the photographer that he had been paid to do a job and should simply take the money and photograph the wedding. That's why you're here, to do a job. But the disagreement became very much heated, and Abarak decided to leave the venue. Where it got to breaking of someone's nose, I guess is where it started from.
Got really physical. The two men, the photographer, and of course the groom got into a fight. The groom's nose was broken during that altercation. The photographer later acknowledged that what happened, he made it clear that he did not regret refusing photographing the girl. In fact, his response after the incident was very direct. He said that if the same situation happened again, he would still refuse to take the photographs. His argument was that a child bride was a form of child abuse and that no amount of pressure would make him photograph a child in a wedding dress. He took it really, really personal. And there's an important distinction to make because the headline circulating online says the photographer beats up the client and his wedding party. Well, that is not exactly what the original report established. The documented incident involved Albayak and the groom. The groom's nose was broken during their fight, but there is no credible evidence in the original reports that he went around attacking the entire wedding party. And I mean, we have to just point that out because social media just has a way of making an old story more dramatic each time it is reposted. The original incident was already unusual enough. A photographer arrived for a wedding, discovered the bride was a child, refused to do the job,
and even tried to take his leave, letting go of the money. But the groom went after him and said, "You cannot leave. You've been paid to do the job." The photographer is saying, "I don't care. You can take your money back, but I'm not photographing this wedding." The groom went ahead to follow him to say, "You are not leaving." But the moment when another man is stopping you from leaving, what does it go? It got into a fight, and the police were called, and local reports said that this resulted to the groom's nose being broken. I mean, two hefty men, or two men now, were fighting. But there's something else here that makes this story particularly significant. This was not a situation where the photographer simply decided that he did not like the groom or not approve of the wedding. He was reacting to the age of the bride. And Turkish law at the time sets the general minimum marriage age at 18, with limited exception allowing 17 years old to marry under specific circumstances with judicial approval. So marriage below 17 was not legally permitted, but under particular circumstances. So in this situation, this was clear cut, not backed by the law. So the photographer had a stance to say no. But some argue to say instead of, getting into a fight, it had just called the right authorities to come look into the situation.
But then again, should the photographer have fought with the groom? What should a person do when they arrive at work and discover that the work that they've been hired to do involves a child in a potentially harmful situation? And I mean, the wedding was not organized by one person. Photographers, caterers, decorators, makeup artists. I mean, you have a long line of vendors, who are providing one service or the other. If one of those people discovers that a child is being married, do they have a responsibility to refuse their services? And in fact, was he the only one who raised an eyebrow as to, the fact that a child was being married on that day, a 15-year-old child? Marriage, of course, is an adult institution. It comes with legal, financial, sexual, and family responsibilities. And that is why the issue of child marriage has remained such a major child protection concern in many parts of the world. When a child is married, the consequences can extend far beyond the wedding day. And of course, Turkey has had its long-running debate around child marriage. Even though the law establishes a minimum age, rights groups have continued to raise concerns about informal and underage marriages. And that is why this incident received a lot of attention.
Right. But then when you see that you are being billed to carry out a service and you get there, but there's also an angle, Ugochukwu, here. Why did the groom only visit the photographer's studio alone without the bride?
Probably because he knew that what he was doing was wrong and illegal.
So he actually put everyone on a blind spot.
I also wondered if when he went to the decorators or the makeup artists or
went alone.
The other vendors, he didn't make known the age of the person that he was going to be getting married to, or show them a picture, or even usually couples go together to some of these things.
Right. To pick your photographer, I'm sure that's even the most interesting part for the bride, because they want to be captured very beautifully. So when you go ahead as the groom to go bid for the photographer, I mean, I have to pick. I have to be there to know the kind of work the photographer has done. But you going alone, it shows that the groom was very much aware.
Something fishy going on.
Some hanky games. In Davido's voice, I was saying now, something fishy really went on. But then, it's one of those stories where, the unusual part gets the headline, but the underlying issue is much more serious than that. But then, we decided to bring you this story to also create some sort of awareness now. Child marriage, does it still go on in our country, Nigeria, and in Africa? Oh, yes. Are there, measures to curb this? But the question this morning is, we're asking you now, if you were the photographer, I'm asking you, if you were the photographer at this event and you discover that this bride is super young and you didn't want to do the job, would you be like Abarak now, who said no and he's not going to photograph? Mind you, you have been paid, and maybe the money itself is even a lot more than the usual pay that you'd get. Would you honorably say, I can't be part of this ceremony and let go of the money and not film it? Let me know your stance. Would you or would you not? Would like to know right now. The number to do that is very much easy, but I'd like you to head over to our YouTube channel on YouTube right now, The Real Broadcasting Network, and leave your comment on our live feed, letting us know what you'd rather do. Go ahead and decline or say, you know what, I've been paid for the job. I'll just go ahead and do my job and go. It's not my business. But from that story, we'll move over to the papers now. Which stories made it to the front page of the dailies, from the Punch to the Guardian to the Vanguard? We'll find out just in a moment.
Every street has a story.
Welcome back. We're taking a look at the stories that have made it to the front page of the Daily's newspaper. Now, we'll quickly see how we can either punch in or guide you through what's going on the front pages this morning. Which of the stories are we running with? The Punch newspaper, it's quite heavy. It's looking very much with the news. But then you remember, your thoughts are still very much welcome. The Punch, presidential election. Tinubu, Obi, others sign peace pact as campaign begins today. Of course, it's the 19th day of August, 2026. Presidential election. Tinubu, Obi, others sign peace pact as campaign begins today. With the following riders: Tinubu warns against ethnic religious politics. Obi demands issue-based campaigns. Atiku, Makinde absent as candidates pledge violence-free polls. INEC deploys 1.4 million ad hoc staff for the 2027 poll, raises the alarm over misinformation. Also, 36 states budgets jumps 47% to 40 trillion naira, capital spending falls. The picture of Governor Abdul Razak is right beside our story. Federal government, state councils share record 3 trillion naira in July of this year. Salary crisis. NLC warns of fresh health sector crisis. Also, Nigerians pay more for cement than African neighbors, FCCPC says. NDLEA nabs alleged cocaine baron fleeing to Paris. Talk about one person who's been flaunting wealth, but now we've known the source of the wealth. No alliance. Adeleke denies ADC role in re-election. The picture on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have a cross-section right here. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amupitan. We have the convener, National Peace Accord, Bishop Matthew Kuka, presidential candidates, and the political party leaders during the signing of the first National Peace Pact Accord by political parties and candidates ahead of the 2027 general election in Abuja. And of course, beside the nameplate, we also have off-cycle polls. Jonathan decries governor's show of force. Those are the stories you'll find on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Any of these stories interest you? Then let us know your thoughts via the phone line. Listening to us on the radio, it's Real 99.3 FM Abuja, 09062029933.
Alrighty then, we switch over to the Nigerian Tribune this morning with the story. INEC projects over 100 million registered voters for 2027 polls to deploy 1.4 million ad hoc personnel to over 176,000 polling units. Police warn against armed groups' use of illegal firearms as Tinubu, Obi, others sign peace accord. That, of course, was a story that Marian read out on The Punch. Atiku, ADC absent. Committee facilitated 30 peace accords since 2015. This is coming from former head of state, Abdul Salami. Were committed to accord principle, Tinubu. All right, and away from that, Oshun APC Guba candidate Oye Bamiji calls for calm, raises alarm over attacks on supporters. And it appears they have not accepted the INEC result from the elections that were conducted on Saturday, but we'll get you more details on that. UI, that's the University of Ibadan, and Unilag lead Nigerian varsity in global ranking. Well, what's their positioning on that global ranking? Details on page 10. Off-cycle elections, influx of governors, others poses threats to Nigeria's democracy. That's Jonathan. Recalls how he handled similar trend in Anambra and Ekiti in 2013 and 2014. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has criticized the growing practice of serving governors, senior political office holders, and other influential political actors converging on states during off-cycle elections, warning that the trend could undermine Nigeria's democratic stability. And you want to ask, how many governors did we have in Osun State before the elections? Well, the facts are there for you to also get yourself acquainted with everything that transpired. Beside that headline is the one that says 24 killed, many missing, others injured in fresh Plateau attack. Neighboring communities deserted. Women protest killings as victims receive mass burial. It's not a palatable story, but that's the one that's been captured on the Tribune this morning. Federal government and states, local governments share 3 trillion naira for July. Federal government, states, and local governments share 3.007 trillion naira for July. Residents allege ripoff as cooking gas sells for 1,500 naira per kg in Lagos and Ogun. Well, for those in the FCT, how much are you buying yours now? FCCPC finds possible price manipulation in Nigeria's cement market. All right, that's the Federal Consumer Protection Commission talking about a possible price manipulation in Nigeria's cement market. Well, which of these stories would you like to react to? 0906-202-9933. That is the number to call. And it appears we're switching it over to the Vanguard this morning.
The Vanguard newspaper with the headline this morning, as 2027 campaign begins, high hurdle before candidate parties. That's a leading story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. As following writers on that paper reads, 8 states announced 20 to 200 million naira permit fees. Tinubu, Obi, Atiku, others sign peace accord. Now vow issue-based campaigns. Tinubu warns against ethnic religious politics, says election not do or die. Obi tells voters to reject violence now. And of course, violators of accord. Obi tells voters to reject violators of accord. Peace Committee warns against hate speech, violence, fake news. Voters to hit 100 million. INEC begins cleanup of register list challenges. To deploy 1.4 million ad hoc staff across 176,000 polling units. We are ready for campaigns, Labour Party says. And we have the picture on the front page of the Vanguard. Parties sign peace accord. We have the political presidential candidate from the different political parties alongside party leaders on the front page of the Vanguard. 24 killed, many injured in fresh Plateau attack. Women protest killings as 24 victims receive mass burial. Don't lift Nigeria's CPC designation after Plateau killing, says U.S. congressman. Stay away from off-cycle elections, Jonathan tells governors, powerful politicians. Reach honorary degree, rules phase 2-year ban, NUC warns varsity. High cost of cement, FCCPC probes possible price manipulation. Above the nameplate of the Vanguard, U.S. lift 12-year entry restriction on Nigerian vessels. IBB, IGP, Ike, Nwachukwu, Osoba, and others at the Vanguard at 40 book launch today. Trapped in your vehicle, Lagos roads turned into extortion jungle. Those are the stories you would find on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper for today, Wednesday, August 19, 2026. Let us know your thoughts. 090-6202-9933. Which of these stories interest you? We'd like to hear your thoughts at this moment. You can head over to our live feed on YouTube now at the Real Broadcasting Network to let us know your thoughts via the comment section. The phone line is open, 090-6202-9933. Couple of stories on the front page. Of course, across all papers this morning is the peace accord that was signed by different political parties yesterday. The president, the NDC, the ADC, other parties were all present at the signing of that peace pact. Now, political parties and presidential and National Assembly candidates signed the first national peace accord on issue-based campaigns ahead of 2027 general elections, pledging to shun violence, hate speech, misinformation, personal attacks, and other conduct capable of undermining the electoral process. Good morning to you. Good morning. All right, we'll try to connect back to the phone line when we get it. Now, the accord was signed in Abuja at a ceremony organized by the National Peace Committee in partnership with the Kuka Center, barely 24 hours before the statutory commencement of public campaigns and rallies of the election, which officially today campaigns start across. Now, the event brought together the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Josh Amopitu. This should be his first outing after the election in Osun State, which was relatively peaceful. Now, political party leaders, presidential candidate, National Assembly candidate, the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, and the rep of the diplomatic community, among other stakeholders. Those who signed the accord included President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, the Nigerian Democratic Congress, presidential candidate Peter Obi, the Social Democratic Party candidate Adewale Adebayo, and his African Action Congress counterpart Omoyele Sowore. Other participants were the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Professor Netawe Wilder, and the presidential candidate of the People's Redemption Party and Labour Party, Donald Duke. Now, we also have other members, the president of the Senate, we have the PRP national chairman. Others were in attendance yesterday. Quite an historic moment. The first peace pact being signed
for the 2027
election, right? We saw the one in Osun State was signed, but after the signing, we still saw some pockets of violence that happened. We do hope that everyone at the signing yesterday, we hold to their words to maintain peace. This is the first national peace accord on issue-based, campaign. So the first one should set 2027 election. This one should set precedent and set the pace for others to follow. Presidential, well, let's keep it very peaceful. Issue-based campaign is what everyone is talking about. Let us tackle the issues to better the lives of Nigerians. Good morning, Abubakar.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. I want to go straight to this issue of cement. Yes, I said this thing years ago that the monopoly of cement in Nigeria will cost this issue. It has come. When you monopolize one item, there will be a problem. So you can see the whole West Africa country, even in Togo, they are selling equivalent to 9,500 for a bag of cement. And Nigeria here is 12,005. And everything you use to manufacture the cement is in Nigeria here. So I see no reason why this thing is going up. You have a company, because I'm into building. So I don't know. I think the way I the same thing I'm talking about this petroleum. If they should allow monopoly on this part petroleum product from Dangote, to be problem too. By then we just set up his price. You can look at what is happening now. A barrel of oil now is going for 80 something, $70 to $90. But they are still selling. I bought yesterday 1,220. So I'm even expecting that thing to drop to 900 by now. But it's still there. And who is the biggest producer of petroleum? It doesn't take. So if you say tomorrow this thing will drop to 900, it will come. And then the other people that report the gas, the same for we will follow up. Then on the gas issue, I bought gas 1,220. That was last week in Cuba. So I don't know about 1,500. That is the price presently. I don't know about today. Last week was 1,220. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution, Abubakar from Cuba. A lot of issues, that's why when I heard it be an issue-based campaign for the presidential election now, it is very much important. Here we are, producing more than we even need in our country for cement now, but still selling at a high price. So why should the manufacturing country now have to pay more than those who are importing from us? How's that even possible? Let's understand how that works. And we do hope that the government will look into this closely.
Absolutely. It is the FCCPC who are raising these concerns to say that the price of cement might in fact be manipulated, and it is a headline you're going to find across most of the papers this morning. Marian has spoken extensively, tried to give you a breakdown and details of what transpired yesterday at the signing of the National Peace Accord, where we understand that most of the parties either have their candidates or representatives of their parties. All right, we do have Evangelist Kolo on the line. Good morning to you, Evangelist. Thank you for calling us this morning.
God bless you. How is the day, sir?
Very well. Good morning.
Thank you. God bless you. Yes, honestly, the peace pact is good. But the situation that the president himself has declared is a stubborn politician. And in 2023, he said that you will be rough. You will play rough. And he did it, snatch it and run with it. Does that comment good for a leader that needs peace to be established with other opposition parties? That is my question this morning, sir. Because the president says he's a stubborn politician. And somebody say I'm a stubborn. What do you expect? There must be chaos. There must be attack. There must be different category of things that will happen in this presidential election. Because the president has declared war against opposition by saying I'm a stubborn politician. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Evangelist Kolo, for your submission, and God bless you too. The numbers to call are displayed on your screen. If you're watching us via YouTube, you can leave your comment on the comment section as well. In fact, the position of INEC is that they do not have a preferred candidate for 2027. INEC has no preferred candidate or party. This is coming from Amiputon, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. The absence of President Bola Tinubu at the signing of the peace accord has been criticized by certain members of the opposition. For instance, the SDP presidential candidate, Adewale Adebayo, while on television yesterday, said that didn't really send the right signal. Of course, the national chairman of the APC, Nentawe Yitwalva, was one of those who participated in the signing. Also, the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, was not present. Neither was his running mate, but the legal advisor of the ADC, and this is an information from the National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, was present at that particular meeting. Good morning to you, Elder Onoja.
Good morning, my good friend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
And then my beautiful daughter, good morning.
Good morning, Elder Onoja. Welcome.
My regard to original Dr. Daramala, not Dr. Rat and Cockroach. my regard to Isaac Onoja. Let me go directly to this thing. I'm not a politician. When they are talking about our politics, now laugh at they laugh them. You know where they laugh them? The place where we hit leg with nothing, and the place where we fall now in the sea in this Nigeria. If you want a free election in Nigeria, we have to go back to our constitution and amend it. The country where you say the president of the country upon the chairman of INEC, upon the chief justice of federation, upon the inspector general of police, and then that man is coming for election, and then you say it's not win. Those people, they are the power of election in any country. Unless if you amend our constitution, not pleasant to appoint all those type of people. The chief justice of federation no say if it's pleasant not win, they are going to change it. INEC no say if it don't win, they are going to change it. The inspector general of police no say if the present government not win, he's going to leave in office. They are going to protect him, make sure that he wins. If the police no do it, INEC will say the equipment is not working. Or they say go to court. If you go to court, what the Chief Court decided is finally who is the Chief Justice, who will appoint him. So if Nigeria needs a free election, we have to go back to our constitution and amend it. The other countries, the president don't have anything to appoint to do with the chairman of INEC or Chief Justice of Federation. Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Onoja, and God bless you too. Thank you for your contribution on the program. The numbers are still there for you to join us for your take on any of the stories we shared this morning. And of course, from the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, the FAC, we understand that federal government, state, and local governments shared 3.007 trillion naira in July, okay? 36 state governments. And of course, the 774 local government councils, that was the total amount of money shared as revenue for July 2026. I mean, this just forms the basis for a lot of accountability conversations, Marian, where we now need to start asking, this money that is being shared, the governors are getting a share, the local governments...
higher share. Emphasis on higher.
Better than what they used to receive.
Yes.
The local governments, of course, are also getting a share. And remember, there had been that particular order or judgment from the Supreme Court to grant them some level of autonomy.
Right.
So how do we begin to, scrutinize and ask for exactly what these monies are being used for? Because guess what? There's also going to be another communique on how much was shared in August.
Right.
And for September, and on and on and on, for the entire duration of some of these administrations. What is the money being used for?
But as long as we bring the numbers that was shared in July, but before we get into that, Triple D from Gwari, good morning to you. Good morning.
Triple D, good morning. Okay.
We'll try to reconnect with you, Triple D, do what to call us back. But I was talking about when you give us the figures that was shared between government from the FAC account now, right, to state government, local government and all. Can we also get a detailed report of what was spent in July by these governors and local government? I think that would help to understand that the federal government should make sure they get a report. We're giving you this. We're giving the report of how much was shared to the states. The state in return should give us what they spent this money on a monthly basis, because we get the report. You get monies on a monthly basis as well from the FAC account. So can you also give us a detailed report of what you spent the money on, or what projects you're actually currently doing in your state? Is it roads? Is it health? Is it education? Let us know what you were doing with the monies that's been sent to you. Good morning to you, Bishop from Kefi.
Good morning. Well, first of all, I want to comment on the issue of the INEC chairman. Who put him there? Who put him there? That is the question. Who put him there? Is it the INEC officials that select him to be their leader, or the president? So from that alone, we are supposed to know what will determine 2027 election. I can't put you in a place and then you will not tell me you don't know me. You shouldn't take us to be children. And then on the question you're asking, when you're asking this question, I was just laughing. Well, as an accountant, I don't want to say anything more here because when the federal government gives states, the executive officer of the state is the state governor. And then he has the traditional rulers, which are the actors in the state. And then we have local government chairmen, who are the people who appoint those local government chairmen. So from there, you can know how they go about with their money. We can only be hearing figures, but we don't know what they are doing with it. And you don't have the right to go and question anybody. What are people who come and give us the account of what you are doing? We don't have that right, except maybe if we change our constitution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, the media holds the right place to ask these questions, and the answers should be also given. If you give a report of how much was shared in the month, you should also give a report of how much you spent that money. Even the local government should come out and let us know how much allocation they got from the state and how well they spent it. If you're going to spread the money across the traditional rulers and all, you should also let us know, because gone are the days when you say federal allocation has not come in, or the money coming from the federal is quite little. There's little to none we can do with it. But now you have increased allowance coming to your state. So is your state better off? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning.
Ogojuku, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, this is Dr. Mr. Daramola. I'm calling from Tiwa.
Welcome.
Yes, my take is this. The presence of a political bigwigs in Osun State election. My question is this: what are they going there to go and do? Are they from that state? Is that how our democracy has turned to? Does it mean that rigging by force is part of democracy, or democracy is an institution? So the Akpabio that led them to that place, the election that brought Akpabio to sit as a president, Senate, the next chairman who announced the election, up to now is in the prison for announcing the person that is not win. And Monday Okwebolo was there, the governor of Edo State. He was laughing at the governor because of the way the governor is dancing away his sorrow. Okwebolo, who cannot pronounce the GCFR, who cannot pronounce a budget at the National House of Assembly in Edo State. You can see the shenanigans that are being playing over the place. When election is being held in Edo State, we need peace, and we don't need pieces. But they should, according to Jonathan, what Jonathan says is absolutely truth. They should stop those shenanigans. We don't want it in Edo State. We don't want it anywhere. Let the people, the people that are from the origin of that state, let them go there and vote. And people told us before the election that the APC have supporters of former governor, this and that. I asked the person on this channel that time, are they the ones that go to vote on that day, or the citizens?
Let's bring it together and wrap up.
So finally, the killing in Plateau, enough is enough. Government to do something. This is the same people that they call the prodigal son. They are killing people every day, but they say a prodigal son. They don't need to arrest all these bandits. They need to send them to their makers. Whenever they catch them, kill them before they even go guide them to the police station. So that is my take. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Dr. Mr. Daramola, for your contribution. Let's keep it within 60 seconds. And the phone line is still open for you to send in your contribution. A lot is happening in the news currently, but I advise you get to our live broadcast on YouTube at the Real Broadcasting Network and leave your comments right there at the comment section. It's very easy for you to do that now. But then the peace pact was signed yesterday by presidential candidates, House of Assembly, and all members were present. Governors, everyone, party members were present to witness that. The president was not present in person, but indeed was represented by the secretary now. And that has caused a lot of reactions to say, why was he not present to sign this first national peace pact for the 2027 general election? And also, election-based campaign is what the Peace Pact is calling for political parties to use for going to campaigns officially starting today now. Good morning to you, Mr. CJ.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is CJ from Asaba Lake. Hello?
Go ahead.
See, Peace Pact. Which that Peace Pact help? Peace Pact did not help anybody since where that thing started. Peace Pact in Osun, how many people was killed in Osun? Almost 30 people. Peace Pact. Even the people who in that peace park now, if all of them are politicians, politicians are not supposed to be involved in a peace park. Find the credible God, bishop man of God, not all these politicians who go and negotiate for peace. At the back, they are looking of the politics compensation. See, in Oshu election, me, I disagree with those people who say is a credible. No any credible election, which person that any election where people die, they are calling it a credible. 30 people die in Oshu, almost 30 people in Oshu. One state in a whole 36 states. If God forbid 30 people will be dying in the general election, how many people? Almost 300 people will die in general election. If we continue like this, please, it's not credible. No matter say whether Adeleke, whether Oshibanjo, whether anybody win or shoot, but that election is not credible. Because the blood of innocent Nigerians is more important to God than the office of anybody in Nigeria. Please, it should not happen again. And I disappointed in that governor. Instead of him to be by now going to all those families who die because of the election, console them, know how they will get justice. He continued telling us that Tinubu called him. This one called him. This one called him. Please, we need justice in Latoshu. Respect of those people who die. Person should not die because of election. Please, please. Right. Person should not die. That's a peace park people, Kuka or Salam. Those people, they should remove themselves from that peace park. They are not doing anything good in that peace park. People are dying and they are talking of peace park. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, CJ. Let's keep the motions together. I know when you talk about electoral matters now, it's one thing. I think we should be out of the situation where we have to record death when it concerns elections. No one should die for any cause, whether elections or not. We're all asking for us to be better governed. And we need to put the people that we think can do better in office, in power. And it's just by choice. I choose this candidate. I go ahead to the polls with my voter's card and endorse that person through my vote, without any bias, without me being coerced to do that. Why do we have to die because we want to elect officials into office? I mean, it's quite sad that those build up to the election, some citizens in Osun State were lost. Very much sad. But we do hope that going into the general elections, we don't want to have a repeat of that. No one has to die, and no one should die for the cause of electing an individual into office. It is not a do or die affair. I mean, going by the speech of the president, who wasn't present physically, but through his secretary now, George Akume, the secretary to the government of the Federation, he said elections should not be treated as a do or die affair. Absolutely not. He urged political parties to put the country's interest above personal and partisan ambition. You can say what you want to say or have your reactions to that, but he has said it, and that's the clear message that everyone should go by. It is not a do or die affair. Political actors should put the country's interest. If you have the interest of the country at heart, I'm pretty sure when you try to do some things, you have to think twice. Are you for the people? Whatever decision you're making, is it for the betterment of the country? Is it for the people? If it's for the people, then the people who you're doing it for shouldn't have to die, because if they die, what you want to do, who's going to enjoy it? Who's going to have to, experience or have that goodwill that you want to preach now? But then the phone line is open. You're listening to us via the radio. It's 09062029933. Now, if you also go into the papers this morning, you see the investigation by the FCCPC looking at the different countries in Africa and looking at the prices of cement in those countries and that of the price in Nigeria. I mean, as part of the investigation, the commission said the ACP examined cement markets in Kenya, in Tanzania, in South Africa, in Egypt, in Morocco, and in Algeria, considering factors such as availability of limestone, population, production capacity, and domestic consumption. All of these factors have been used to understand why the price here in Nigeria is higher than other countries where we even now export to. The agency, with its findings, said in Kenya, which has a population of about 58.6 million, that's about 76% lower than Nigeria, domestic cement demand was estimated at 9.3 million metric tons per annum. That was in 2025. Now, the retail price of a bag of cement in Nairobi is about $5 now. That's about 7,344 naira. Now, according to FCCPC, noting that Kenya is endowed with limestone. Now, in Tanzania, with a population of about 66.3 million, domestic cement demand was also estimated at 9.3 million MTPA in 2025, while a bag of cement was reported to have sold for about $4.80. That's about 6,528 naira if you look at it in naira. In Togo, the price of cement, it sells at about 9,180 naira. That's about $6 now. Significantly, Togo does not have limestone deposit. That's what the commission says. If you now do a comparative with Nigeria, the market intelligence reviewed by the commission shows that the retail price for a 50 kg bag of cement rose significantly during the first half of this year, 2026. A bag reportedly selling for between 9,300 and 9,700 in January was now selling between 10,500 naira and 13,000 naira by mid-year. We're already in August. So by July, prices of between 13,000 naira and 15,000 naira were reported in some part of the country. You have between 13,000 and 15,000 naira in these reports to be sold. While where we're coming from in Kenya, in Togo and all, no price was even up to 10,000 naira. So now the FCCPC says its survey indicates that Nigeria has installed cement production capacity for more than 60 million to 65 million metric tons annually, while estimated domestic consumption is approximately 25 million to 30 million metric tons. So we don't even consume as much as we produce. So the organization noted that Nigeria is net exporter of cement to neighboring states. So why do we still pay higher money for the cement we produce in Nigeria that we do not even consume 100%? And those we're exporting to are buying it way cheaper than us here in the country. Those are the questions Nigerians are asking this morning. I do hope that this investigation will be able to get to where the problem is. Is there a middleman problem? You buy cheaper and you say higher to the Nigerians. Is that where we are? Is it production? Is it the ease of doing business in Nigeria that is, getting to informing this price in the country? All of this will be examined. And now, before we wrap up the newspaper review this morning, we have NLC warning of fresh health sector strike if something is not done about the health sector. The Nigeria Labour Congress has urged the federal government to urgently resolve the lingering salary dispute with the Joint Health Sectors Union, warning that failure to revive negotiations could trigger another industrial crisis in the health sector. Also in the paper, if you look at the Punch, you have Wike making bold statement that would have helped Tinubu win Osun. In that video, he did say that if the president needed to win Osun over, the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, would have been called upon. And that statement has been widely criticized and asked, what do you mean as regards to the statement? Now, if the president needed to win, you'll be called upon. Are we still talking about free, fair, and credible elections here? Is it talking about rigging? All of these reactions are on that story on the front page of the papers this morning as well. But then, of course, across all papers, the peace accord that was signed by the president and other political parties. But we keep it a wrap here for the paper review. Thank you for being part of it. It comes your way tomorrow again, 6 a.m. as a time. So make sure you tune in. But right now, ahead at 7 a.m. on the clock, the first news bulletin will be on the way. So you want to understand what's going on in your country and beyond, then keep it right here on Real Broadcasting Network.
We know that you can't always wait for the news at the top of the hour. Don't worry, we got you. Check out the latest news headlines on our website, therealmediang.com. Real Broadcasting Network. We the people.
Jesus. My brother, see road now. You live in Lagos now, traffic, but don't do. No go anywhere. My brother, this is why I love Abuja. My brother, na city gate be this. Where you go see before you enter Abuja. If you enter Abuja and you never see this city gate, my brother, na Cameroon you dey. My brother, this is why I love Abuja. My brother, Abuja life too soft. After work like this, now here they come sit down. There's the T5 things that will be sonorous in my spirit. Eh? Now why I love Abuja with this? Unity for inside the diversity. Now what did they take to know Abuja for? Now why I love Abuja? You see this place for my back? Luxury on another level.
This is Real 993. Time check is 7 a.m. From our global news center, we bring you the latest happenings on the Real News.
This is the Arabian News Hour from the Real Broadcasting Network. I'm Sufyan Ibrahim, and here are the top stories. Presidential candidates and national chairmen of major political parties have signed the first National Peace Accord ahead of the 2027 general elections. President Bola Tinubu was represented at the signing in Abuja by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, alongside APC National Chairman Nentawe Yelwatda. The Nigerian Democratic Congress NDC candidate Peter Obi and the African Action Congress candidate Omoyele Sowore signed the accord in person. Speaking on the sidelines of the event, Peter Obi called on politicians to ensure their conduct reflects the offices they seek.
For the sake of this, ensure that our conduct reflects the office we're seeking, our behavior, and I will do the right things and campaign on issues that Nigerians are going to have.
The National Peace Committee, chaired by the former head of state, General Abdulsalam Abubakar, has used the accord to get political actors to publicly commit to peaceful elections ahead of the commencement of campaigns today, as announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Away from that, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will deploy approximately 1.4 million ad hoc personnel across more than 176,000 polling units nationwide for the 2027 general elections. The INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amopiton, disclosed this in Abuja during a meeting with an International Republican Institute pre-election assessment delegation. Amopiton said the commission is preparing for the elections through the continuous voter registration, which is a comprehensive audit of the voter register and the deployment of its automated biometric identification system to eliminate duplicate records. He also said INEC is strengthening logistics and improving access to polling units, including provisions for persons with disabilities, pregnant women, nursing mothers, and elderly voters. Away from politics, child mortality remains a major public health concern in Nigeria. To address the challenge, the Child Health and Mortality Prevention Surveillance, CHAMPS, has brought key stakeholders together to discuss ways of preventing avoidable child death. RBN correspondent Fatima T reports.
He gave birth through operation, through surgery, and unfortunately they lost the baby.
Despite Nigeria's significant progress in immunization of children globally, child mortality still remains a major public health challenge. The Nigeria Demographic and Health Survey puts under 5 mortality rate at 110 deaths per 1,000 live births. Every 1 in 9 Nigerian children does not survive to age 5. All of these have sparked the interest of the Child Health and Mortality Prevention Surveillance, CHAMPS, to target its mandate of preventing avoidable child deaths to Nigeria using verifiable research to understand why they occur. CHAMPS brings together relevant stakeholders across health, academia, and administration to unveil its vision and the roadmap to achieving it. CHAMPS Executive Director Dr. Cynthia Whitney highlights some of the preventable causes of child mortality in Nigeria.
We have found a surprising number of deaths from HIV. For these, about half the families did not know their child had HIV before CHAMPS did the testing. Importantly, as results for each death are examined, an assessment is made about whether the death could have been prevented. About 4 of every 5 deaths are preventable.
The Special Advisor to the President on Health, Dr. Salman Anas, explains the challenges enabling child mortality and the way forward.
We know the number of babies that die, small babies, sick babies, premature babies in Nigeria. We have seen it on a daily basis. It's very common. a result of either asphyxia or neonatal infections or congenital condition and several others. So timeliness of maternal delivery and newborn services.
The representative of the Pediatric Association of Nigeria, Dr. Amsa Mirami, speaks on bridging data, policy and action to mitigate Nigeria's child mortality.
This is where chance brings tremendous value. By combining mortality surveillance, clinical information, post-mortem sampling, laboratory diagnostics, and community engagement, chance provides an opportunity to move beyond assumptions and generate credible evidence about what is actually causing children to die.
CHAMP's launch goes beyond the ceremony. It is targeting investigating neonatal, infant, and under 5 mortality rates in the country, leveraging research and data sharing to help Nigeria government formulate policies and put infrastructures in place to save the lives of our children. From Fraser Sweets in Abuja, Mati Fati, RBN News.
And that is the RBN News Hour. Thank you for staying with us on the Real Broadcasting Network. Stay informed with more stories on our website at www.therealmediang.com. Also download the RBN app on Google Play Store and Apple Store for iOS devices. You can also follow us across all social media platforms at The Real Media NG for real-time updates and in-depth coverage. I am Sufyan Ibrahim. The morning edition continues. Please stay tuned.
From our Global News Center, we bring you the latest happenings on the real news. Waiting for the news at the top of the hour? Don't worry, you can now get the news as it breaks. Download the Real Broadcasting Network free mobile app for Android, Play Store, and web to get breaking news alerts as the news breaks. Also, get more detailed perspectives on all major news reports when you visit our website, realmediang.com.
Every street has a story. Every struggle carries hope. Every dream deserves a voice. We walk where the people walk. We honor our culture. We tell the stories that matter. This is not just news. This is your story, your voice, your network. Real Broadcasting Network. We the people.
Welcome back. Glad to know you're still with us right here on the Real Broadcasting Network. And it's still the morning edition. And now we turn our attention to one of the stories that made it across the papers this morning. I will have a special guest in the studio. The presidential candidate of the AAC, Omoyele Sowore, is live with us in our studios. And we're looking at the signing of the Peace Pact yesterday. He was present, the president wasn't, and a lot of questions to why he wasn't there. These are, legally binding materials that have been signed to say we want peace and issue-based election campaign. But let's understand the first National Peace Pact that was signed for 2027 general elections now yesterday. Omoyele Sowore is with us. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you.
Now, we'll get right into it. Right after the signing of that Peace Pact yesterday, you called it, and I quote what you said, a ritual.
Yeah, it is.
Why the use of that word as to say the Peace Pact that was just signed for both parties and all parties involved to guarantee that there will be peace as campaign starts today leading to the election? Why is it a ritual for you?
Well, anything that I say is based either on experience or facts. And we're just coming from an off-season election in Osun State. People also sat down and signed a peace accord, as it is called. Right. And as soon as they left the venue, I don't think the ink dried before they started killing people. At the end, about 40 people, it depends on who you are, between 40 and 50 people were killed in Osun State before and possibly during the election. So what's the value of the peace accord? It didn't bring peace. But you will hear, ironically, some people, including journalists, asking me yesterday, oh, Osun just had a peaceful election. I was like, are you serious? How can you call an election in which 40 to 50 people were killed? They didn't die. It wasn't a bubonic plague. they were shot dead, in most cases, or macheted or hacked dead. That means the peace pact or peace accord is just a ritual, which we have to do as part of the election, because it is not enforced, it didn't bring peace that it ought to bring. But one other thing we should ask ourselves is, why are we signing a peace accord every election season? Peace accords are meant for people who just ended war, or who promised not to go back to war, or as a stopgap measure between two warring parties. So it shows that we have recognized basically that elections in Nigeria are not peaceful exercise, or it's just for people who really want to hurt themselves. That's a recognition of what.
But don't you think that, like you highlighted to say, that means we agree that the elections are violent here and there, and people were killed in Osun State?
Yes, and nobody's talking about them anyways. Yes.
Right. You've mentioned it.
Yeah.
Not now, even before now, you've mentioned it. Yes. Those who have died, what about them? What about the families leading to the election? I guess when people say the election was peaceful, is as regards to the tension, the build-up to the election was very much heightened. But election day, there was sort of relative peace. The account of violence wasn't as...
when you talk about election, you talk about pre-election activities, election activities and post-election activities. You cannot isolate one from the other. Mm-hmm. If somebody gets killed at an election rally, you cannot say that the election was peaceful, because it's still part of the election. It's the election that caused, it's part of the statistics of the election. So you cannot separate one from the other. I was using the example of Russia and Ukraine. These are two major world powers, I would say, who are actively at war. And if 10 people die in any of their drone attacks, it will be like, oh my God, 10 people were killed. That was what everybody was saying yesterday. Like, this is the highest number of people that ever died in one. And these are guys that are firing ballistic missiles at themselves. But here we're not at war. This is just one state out of 36 plus one territories in Nigeria. And 50 people were killed. So what I'm trying to break down to you is that we cannot separate the pre-election violence in Osun from the election day activity itself. And nobody has come out to tell us that nobody died on election day. Probably nobody died, but we have evidence that this election led to the death of 50 persons, and we should never pretend like that did not happen. That's a result. It would be an oxymoron to say that it was a peaceful election.
So don't you think this National Peace Pact, which you were part of yesterday, where you signed, is a reminder to say what we saw in Osun, whether build-up or post-election, we do not want that to happen, build up to the presidential election?
See, only people who are crazy do the same time over and over again, expecting the same result without changing their strategy. The question is, after you have signed the peace accord, was there peace? That's the question. But the other question is, there must be solid interventions that is just not mere rituals. For instance, we sat through the whole shebang of this peace accord yesterday. And they're talking about statistics where you can report this. It read to me like it's more about how to preserve the ego of the candidates. Oh, don't say anything bad about the candidate. Nobody's talking about that. There was no mention of deaths, how to report if people get killed and what we do about it. They were saying that for the first time yesterday that this peace pact or peace accord has now become part of the Nigerian constitutional process, and if you sign, you can be held liable if you did something wrong. Nothing was said about if somebody get killed, we will make sure that we investigate and charge them for murder or culpable homicide, whichever crime they have committed. All of it was like, it seems to me like it's about preserving the ego of some of the candidates. So please don't say anything bad about them. Don't ruin their reputation. Nothing substantial. That's why I call it a ritual, because after we're done, everybody moves on, and the violence will still happen. But just to add, the most important person, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the man in charge of national violence. And when I say national violence, I'm not saying that he's violent. That's a conversation for another. I know he is. But if you are the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you are technically in charge of violence because all the armed forces are going to carry out violence, whether it's legal or illegal. It was not there.
But do you believe that the president believes in this peace accord that was signed yesterday?
I don't think so. It doesn't.
Do you believe in it?
No, I don't think it.
Why did you sign it?
I signed it because it's a ritual. I told you it's an election ritual. Rituals we carry out on election, during election, including the question you asked me, I walked in and said, have you started campaigning? Yeah. That's the beginning of the campaign. It doesn't mean that today everybody must go have a rally.
It's your signature on paper saying that you believe. If you say your words that you do not believe in it,
of course, I signed it.
Your pen to paper says that you believe it.
No, my pen to paper said that I attended this thing, and what you read, I believe that all of us who are going to the election should adhere to it. But the fundamental issue I'm raising is that the head of state, the guy who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, who ought to show example that he's committing to a peaceful and non-violent election, was absent.
Why do you think he was absent yesterday?
I think because he doesn't believe in
There are those who would credit, issues like this as contributors to perhaps reducing to the barest minimum. You say it's a ritual. Yes. In the 2015 election, when Muhammadu Buhari won President Goodluck Jonathan, it was projected there was going to be a mass, outbreak of violence. But to some extent, it was not to the scale that was projected. And some people have said, that was because before the election, there was an agreement by all the parties to have, that peace, that understanding.
That's not the reason why there was no violence in 2015. There was violence in 2011 when Buhari didn't win. And you guys
higher than what we had in 2015.
Yes. So the people of Nigeria, when they go into election, will decide that this is what they want. And regardless of what happened, it wasn't because there was a paper signed. Are you getting my point? It wasn't. It was because that election was an election in which there's a general agreement that we want to get rid of the PDP. And everybody just went about their normal electoral duties. It was, if these things worked, there would not be 50 deaths in Osun State. And don't let us gloss over that. It's, if in 2015 you had a presidential election in which you are now saying that we agree that not many people were killed, why is it that in 2026 you're killing 50 people in one state?
And in fact, in that particular state, Senator Francis Fadahunsi did make, some very insightful comments. Yes. And a lot of, conversations has been had around that. And what's your take on some of the safeguards for accords like this to actually punish those who've been found guilty
It's part of what I said the accord is a ritual. You see, we cannot keep setting up ad hoc groups or ad hoc committees to solve national problems. There's a place for law enforcement, right? Why is it that law enforcement organizations or agencies are not doing their jobs? Look, murder of one person during an election in the U.S. could lead to national inquiry, I mention U.S. not because I lived there, because it's where we borrowed our democracy from. If somebody, look at just, not just, when somebody shot at Donald Trump at a rally and the bullet grazed his ear, did you see how the whole world stopped for a second? Everything was done. There was overhaul of security. People were fired. How come nobody detected that the guy was on the roof? If that was Nigeria, we would never know the guy who was on the roof. Everybody would just run away and they say, it's over. As we are speaking, you're a journalist, I'm a pseudo-journalist too. No journalist is talking about, we don't even know, nobody's discussing the list of those people killed. And there's physical evidence that real violence happened. So what am I saying? You have a Fadahunsi, for instance, who made these very inflammatory remarks that technically could have led to, but have we tried him?
He was invited for questioning by the police.
If he was Showore by now, would have filed charges at the Federal High Court against me and asked the judge to come from vacation to come and take over the case. That's why I'm telling you that the ruling party has made no commitment to peace. And the reason why the president didn't find it necessary to show up last time, yesterday. And I made that point because I saw their party people, the federal SGF to the federal government, yes. And also the party chair of APC. And I said, all these documents you are signing here carries no legal power.
You told the SGF?
Of course, yes. On record, you can look for it. I said, your candidate who is not here can claim that he's not aware of what you signed. You cannot vicariously sign a document of this importance on behalf of your candidate. He has to be here. So they said, we'll bring him next time. So the party chair of APC, the SGF to the federal government, cannot sign on behalf of candidate Bola Tinubu because right now he's a candidate in the election. He's not superior to any of the candidates.
Now, let's go to the INEC chairman who was also there during the signing of the peace accord yesterday and some of the comments that he made about INEC not having a preferred candidate, not having a preferred party ahead of the elections. Do you agree with him?
See everybody's reaction, It's like, of course, nobody agrees. There are 22 political parties in Nigeria. Is it 21 plus one? And we always say INEC itself is a political party, a sub-political party to the APC. So I have a small experience going to meetings with chairmen of political parties with INEC. And all of us will be seated, people making contributions. The APC doesn't speak at meetings of political parties with INEC.
Why is that?
They don't have to. And they own INEC because there's a high table made of INEC national commissioners. Most of them are members of APC. So they own INEC. Except we want to deceive ourselves, which we should stop doing. Who appointed INEC? It's the president. You see, until we solve that problem of appointment, there's no way you can take away the familiarity between INEC and, because they must have met the president somehow. Even if it is once to say, look, I'm going to appoint you to be INEC chairman. And the unspoken word is that, you have to do my bidding. Because I'm the one who appointed you.
Well, do you think
is the president that appointed the national commissioners? Is the government that, the president also appointed in the INEC state resident commissioners. Most of them are appointed by him.
The president himself has said that INEC is neutral.
Oh, yes, because that's what he wants you to hear.
But is that a make-believe? Because
it's an illusion. It's not a make-believe.
Because there's also the issue, if you're going to compare and put both situations side by side now of, they want you to believe that your vote does not count. But if you go out there and vote, your vote actually counts. We saw that play out in Osun. So is it also a situation where they want you to believe that because the presidency appoints INEC chairman and other officials now, is because it's going to now go by the bids of the president? Is an individual being appointed into office, is it not supposed to carry out the reason he's there?
INEC, when elections happen, INEC is the official class captain of the election, all right? There are other factors, other elements. There are other agencies involved, security agents, for instance. So, for instance, if they want to rig election in, say, Rivers State or the riverine part of Ondo State, all right? Because I've been a presiding officer before when I was in the I was finishing secondary school. If, as INEC, they drop you somewhere remote, and they come and meet you to rig the election for them and you don't do it, they will tell you nobody will come and pick you to go back to the rack where election collation is happening. It's not as easy as you look at it, but I know what I'm talking about. That when we're talking about independence of INEC, it's wishful thinking, and people are very quick to refer to Osun State. You also don't forget to refer to, Ekiti State. Don't forget to refer to Edo State, And what you have in Osun State is likely what I'll call, maybe like a sentimental period for the public, where everybody's eyes on the Osun State. We're tired of you people. And then they kill 50 people. And election day, you bribe people with vote buying. And, and whatever comes out of it, it's just acceptable, not because it is perfect, but because it suits our particular sentiment at that moment that this may not be, we just overlook the irregularities that might happen, we overlook the violence, and we just want to say, thumbs up, at least, you defeated your enemies. But your enemies are saying, no, you didn't defeat us. We had an agreement. Agreement is agreement. That's what Keyamo said.
But is this an influence problem or an individual problem? Because it's one thing for you to be appointed and you have your job cut out for you to be able to conduct elections to be free and fair. That is the job of the INEC chairman, to make sure elections are good. Regardless of whoever appoints you, the job says that you have to conduct election, it has to be free and fair. So is it a personal problem, a person problem, a character problem, an individual problem, or is the influence over that person? Because we've seen officials in power, whether they have been appointed by the current government or so, still go out there and do well and even stand against the government that appointed them. Because they are upright individuals. So is that an individual problem or is the influence over them?
Yes, you can be an individual who wants to do that in countries where institutions work. No big deal. So you can insult the president of the US as a public official, as a civil servant, and still make it home. Your police will not abandon you. But you can do it in Nigeria and you get to want to leave. And you get to the car park and your DSS has been recalled. Your driver has been recalled. What are you going to do? They're sending you a message that you are no longer safe because you took an independent position. That's what Nigeria is all about. They will just abandon you. Somebody who is at the helm of affairs, in charge of your security, will just abandon you. And they send a message. If you want to understand how these things work, go and read about a former INEC chairman, Humphrey Owosu, who supervised Abiola's election, and when he tried to do right. And, I interviewed him before, it's now late, and he said they were ready. They already seen the election results, they were going to announce it. And, they called him and said, are you sure you want to die? And they were not joking. So eventually he couldn't announce the results. It took us maybe another 30 years before they declared the results, right? He wanted, according to him, he wanted to do what is right. But the atmosphere to do what is right is not there because there's institutions that are not independent or countries where institutions are not truly independent will always betray that lack of independence. If he was somewhere else, he would have announced the election. In the US, Donald Trump claimed he won election. But they did not allow him to get away with it because institutions were working. They were not even federal institutions, they were state institutions. But his attorney general said, look, you didn't win the election. We don't have any evidence. But do you think anybody can do that in Nigeria? One, you have mentioned that there are individual character problems. And when people in power are appointing persons to office, they are looking for the weakest. They're looking for compromised character. So if the person then wants to become independent, they know what to show to you.
But then, if I'll go back to the peace pact that was signed now. If you say that it's just merely a ritual, it's just for us to come sign and go home and all.
Also socialize, with other candidates.
I mean, as a point, you have to know your
exactly.
We
get to see ourselves, and and I also think it's good for optics. The public also get to see us and say, "Oh, these are presidential candidates all seated together."
But what other mechanism would you adopt rather than a peace pact being signed?
No, I don't think
effect peace and a peaceful electoral process.
That is exactly a good point. You see, where there is commitment to, greatness, you would just find great people doing great things. And what is it? What exactly is a peace accord about? It is to say we are going into this election, we don't want violence. The Peace Committee, National Peace Committee, has no enforcement powers, right? None. If something goes wrong, those guys can't even leave their houses. They are largely made of retired people. The chairman is the former head of state, and then Father Kuka, some business people. Those ones are when a country is working, it's the security agencies that will enforce peace. It doesn't need a peace accord. If the police is doing its job, this is our acceptance of failure of our security agencies. DSS is doing its job, Nigeria Army is doing its job. If they find you killing somebody, you don't get away with it. If you are carrying ballot box and police is there, the police take the ballot box from you and handcuff you and take you to their station, detain you and charge you on Monday. That is how to enforce peace. But signing paper documents doesn't carry any, even at the international level. When you sign a peace accord, there are still multinational forces sometimes that are deployed to ensure that that peace is enforced. This is a peace accord in which there's no enforcement procedure, just long speeches about why there should be peace. Maybe psychologically it might work for some people, but the people who really want to carry out violence don't care about your peace accord if it's not enforceable. It's not, and so it's a voluntary exercise. That's why I said it's a ritual. We went in there, we're backslapping. We said, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. And then they took us into a room, we drank tea. If you were interested in your sandwiches, you ate your sandwich, they called us out. Everybody keep giving speeches, and said, oh, come and sign. They put a big table in front of you. And after that, you leave.
Beyond the speeches,
yes,
who should also be signing this peace pact now? Because the people who carry out this violence are not the presidential candidates who go on the field to do that. They are the supporters of these political parties and individuals.
That's exactly why it is necessary that law enforcement do their job. That's where those are the people who should be doing their job. Because, for instance, the peace accord says that if I'm presidential candidate, I'm responsible for what my spokesperson and supporters do. How can I control my spokespersons? How can I control myself? That's the job of security agents to do. It's not for me to, of course, I can tell them that this is our own code of conduct throughout this election. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. But if anybody goes outside of, if anybody violates the law, you are responsible for your actions.
But
I can't be held
if your
vicariously
spokesperson
liable.
violate the law and the law agency sweeps in to make arrest, you're still going to come out to say this is an attack. You're also responsible for the speeches being made on your behalf.
No, see, you can't hold people vicariously liable for criminal offenses if it's a crime. If they thought, which is civil, then you go and sue the person in the civil court to say, look, most of the things they were discussing yesterday at this peace accord, so I can break it down a bit down to you. It's like, don't carry fake news. Don't do misinformation, disinformation. Don't abuse your
no hate speech.
Your opponent. No hate speech. No religious. But as of last week,
which are important.
They're important. But as of last week, Nigeria has entered full blown into religious, bigotry, with all these imams in the north, or in some of them in the south, who are saying that they would rather eat grass than vote for a non-Muslim. What has the peace committee done about it?
Is it too late to retreat and get back to signing
Well,
and
that's what I'm
agreeing to
telling
peace?
you. So they can't do anything to them. I'm just telling you. See, this conversation we're having is to tell you how ineffective the peace accord is. That it is not worth more than a paper upon which it is signed. That's why the president did not come. He didn't take it serious. If it was something that's legally binding on every candidate will be there or must be there. There will be seriousness about it. But, a candidate might decide to come. It's voluntary. That's what I'm telling you. But that, on a serious note, if peace is our goal, the enforcement procedures for it should be carried out by serious security agencies.
All right, let's go to Osun State, Mr. Shaw. before the elections, you were very critical of the Adele case.
Of course.
But on Saturday, the people of Osun spoke that they wanted their governor back, despite some of those criticisms. What do you make of that?
See, I went to Osun State because our party, the African Action Congress, has a candidate who we fought on behalf of to even get heard. When they were planning a town hall meeting, they did not include our party, so I had to call the organizers, Dr. Abati, Obaibena, and all that, and said, you have no right to exclude parties. And they gave political parties, which they call major parties, 1 hour each, gave our candidate 14 minutes. What was our preference? A debate. But the reason they didn't want a debate is because Adeleke perhaps was the one who brought them personally to Osun State for that event. And he made it clear that he doesn't want the disgrace from a debate. So they opted for the town hall meeting format. So I went there myself, and I was asking myself the question, where are all these 350-kilometer highway this man said they construct? I can't find it. Osun or Osogbo still look like they bumped out to Osogbo and Osun that I know years ago. So I was critical about it because that's a fact that I found on the ground. And we went into election, like you said, the people of the state decided that he should come back. But that doesn't make him my preferred candidate. No.
Do you think that what transpired was democracy in action? Because not just you, there was a lot of attack and allegations and counter-allegations before that election.
You see, there are always things people like us know that you probably don't know. Or you know and you ignore, but we don't ignore. For instance, I knew that between him and Tinubu, they were having agreements. And
what kind of agreement?
Yeah, that he will support Tinubu for the presidency, while Tinubu will...
But he had already made that clear right from time.
It's beyond that. He also made sure that his party, Accord, never had a presidential candidate.
Was that his doing? He just going to the party?
No, it was his doing. It was part of the conditions under which he procured the party. The party Accord to him is like a renter, short-term renter.
You think he's going to leave the Accord party?
I'm not a soothsayer, but if he doesn't need Accord, he will discard Accord like a piece of paper, a toilet paper. That one is, he might not need it if he needs it, but if he goes to APC, what are you going to do about it? He was going to join the APC before the election, but Tinubu's cousin, Adetola, who is Minister of Blue Economy, said over his dead body. That's why Adeleke did not join APC. So my point is that after listening to him on the town hall meeting and saying I said this mediocre government, and I look at what they're doing in the States. Every member of their family has a position in his government. Even the video that was making noise is the chairman of Sportybet. And yes, in Osun State. So I was like, these guys are just protecting your family jackpot.
Do you have a personal beef with Davido?
I don't. Even though yesterday I heard somewhere that he said he has a personal beef with me.
Yeah, you said there was something that happened during the NSAS protest.
No, it's true. So what happened during NSAS, I'll tell you today, is that they went and brought him from Lagos, the government. It's not something that I don't even know. They went and took a private jet from Lagos, flew to Abuja during NSAS. And they said Davido was coming. Of course, I was around at Maitama roundabout. And he came rolling around in an open roof car. And Deji, Adeyanju, and Sega Links were with him. So they beckoned on me to come. That Davido has come. I said, what kind of a joke is this? You think we're here to joke? What is Davido coming to do? So apparently it turns out that they brought Davido, recruited, to come and douse the tension in Abuja. It was all arranged, I think, by Dangote then, because the problem of NSAS, what killed NSAS was that while everybody was killing themselves, there was a group inside NSAS, the people I call NSAS connoisseurs, who were having conversation with the government. Dangote, Tony Elumelu, and Aisha They were all having Zoom meetings. In fact, they invited me, and I said, I'm not interested. I saw EndSARS as a revolutionary moment, and if we lose it, we're not going to have that opportunity again. So I told them, what will I be doing with Davido? Davido is just a musician. And why would you bring him to Abuja to come and lead the EndSARS? So after a while...
He's a Nigerian, he's young, and he's influential.
Wait now. After a while... No, I'm just listening now. Mm-hmm. After a while, we went around, and they took him to the police headquarters in this convoy. And I also went through... And he saw me and said, Showore, please, so I don't want to have anything to do with police. I was like, who cares about you? I didn't come here. So I went and confronted the police, and he ran away. The next day, what they brought him for was that they now took him to the police headquarters in Abuja here to meet with the police hierarchy, the IGP and all those guys. And Davido went there and denied that he never came to Abuja to protest.
How do you know that?
It was on record. It was on tape. They caught it was on tape live. They were interrogating him kind of. So you came to Abuja to protest, and now you are... What happened? That was how Davido disappeared from EndSARS. You never heard from him again. And I told the guys who brought him, I said, didn't I tell you this is a joke? Because one of the other strategy of the government during EndSARS, they wanted to provide a leader for EndSARS that they could talk to. Before Davido was brought in, it was Naira Marley. Frank Umba, who was the PRO of police, sat down with Naira Marley in, Instagram Live, thinking that Naira Marley had influence on the youth. It failed. So they abandoned that. So they were always looking for a leadership because they never believed that EndSARS would be such a problem for them. But don't forget, the reason I couldn't have submitted myself to some of these guys was that we were the ones who started EndSARS in Abuja. And I met the same Frank Uba. He came out and said, let's have a conversation on Showore. I said, I'm not your level. Go and bring your IG. The tape is still there. You can see it online. Say, if your IG don't come by today, this is the day we started, you will see what will happen. And that's what happened.
Is that the beginning of their...
That's what he claimed was it. But he's right that I ignored him when he came to Abuja. I don't want to have anything to do with jokes. We are here for serious business. You can't just go and bring a guy, you flew a private jet, and then you are doing open roof march in Abuja. When you want to do the serious work, you ran away. The next day, you went to police headquarters. Do you know the reason why he denied at police headquarters? When he was going upstairs, this is what I reliably gathered from the police. When I arrived at the headquarters, they called him aside. Police. Sir Davido, you are doing EndSARS. Very good. Your friends that was killed, you'd like to come and explain to us when you come down from this meeting. He started shaking. Because at that time, I think he had a friend that was killed. There was a murder case that they said they were trying to hang on his neck. Maybe he did. I don't know. So they already had him caged. And after Davido left the police, where he denied that he never came to Abuja to protest, he denied openly. We never heard of him again. People got killed, never said a word ever again. But they pop out, all these kids, which is nothing wrong. I'm always supportive of them. And come, and rain on the parade of real struggles. You should come out and say the only reason I'm interested in elections is because my family wants to win election and we want to protect our own source of
Mr. Showore, I'm going to ask you.
In Osun State.
What is the particular problem you have with the Adelekes?
When
Ademola Adeleke won, you're not approval of his governance style or something. Adeleke, Davido is not. You've also highlighted or mentioned in some place his father. So what is the problem you have with the Adelekes? I have
a problem with all these families who live off of Nigeria and pretend that it is as a result of hard work. It's not hard work.
You say Davido is not hardworking?
No, I'm saying his father is not. His father is in charge of the power sector. I know what he did in selling a power generating plant to him, and they shut down one to make money, and they are paying themselves. That's how they are buying jets. I have the same position about anybody who is feeding off of Nigeria. and then grandstanding to say, oh, we are a hardworking family. You are not a hardworking family when you are governor. You bring your sister, Modupe, is in charge of Osun State. Your son live off of Osun State. Davido is chairman of Sportybet. Everybody in your family has a political position, and that is no longer governance. That's a family affair. So if I find anybody anywhere that's doing that, I'll condemn it. It's the same way I condemn Tinubu when I see that part of his government is Sheyi, part of his government is his daughter, and his wife. So you have office of president, first daughter, first son, first lady. They even have in the Tinubu dynasty an office assigned to the in-law of Tinubu, one of his wife's husband. I think that's the guy in charge of Nigeria Housing Authority, National Housing, something like that. So there's nothing there to second guess about my position about these guys. It's nothing new. When I see that people are not straightforward, I call them out. If I see that you are not performing, I call you out. And if I see that you are living off of national resources that belongs to all of us, and you are claiming that, I'll call you out. So, and he has now stated why he has an issue with me. Yes, of course I have an issue with you coming to take over the patrimony of a struggle that is leading to, everybody's putting sweat. And you go to the police
but don't
headquarters.
You think the problem is the system that is allowing all of this to play out?
It's the system I'm fighting against. But in the course of fighting against the system, I also fight against the characters who are taking advantage of the system.
But if you say he was recruited, how do you explain the heavy criticism that he's been doling out to the APC government so far? In fact, he said that he will never support APC. How do you explain that?
He was the person who performed at APC's convention in 2015. Is one of the performers in Lagos. Go and check the video. Right? He has always been in APC. So if he's no longer in APC, good luck to him. I'm also opposed to APC. But his uncle is still in APC.
If he's opposed to the APC, doesn't that put two of you on the same side?
No, it doesn't put two of us on the same side. Yeah. The mere fact that he has chosen an enemy doesn't make it that his enemy is my enemy. No. I have the capability to choose my enemies and manage them. What I'm saying is that there's no principled position there to show. Your uncle that you put in power, that you say you use him, is still doing the rubbish. He's still endorsing the rot in the country. They are all the same. When the election was won, they came out clearly and said, this is an agreement between Adeleke and Tinubu, and we're exposing it. If he says it's no longer for APC, that's good for him. But it's beyond that. His entire family is benefiting from the APC rot.
All right. Beyond Osun State and their delegates and all, looking into the 27 general elections now, you've been here before as a presidential candidate. What are you doing differently for the Nigerian people? Moving to the elections now. Campaign starts today.
Today is the beginning of campaign, and we're 5 months away from the election.
Right.
So our programs you will see, and it's going to be transparently so. I'm the first political candidate, presidential, who's got an app. So download the app, show right now, and you can follow me around the country. You can even follow the weather of where I am and your own weather whenever you join that app. So
what are you doing differently for the Nigerian people?
The differently is that we're marshalling and rolling out programs, agenda, and a manifesto that is unmistakably, going to help this country liberate itself, the people. And this applies to several areas, which I'm sure we've talked about on this show. In the area of education, security, how we intend to revolutionize the power sector, bring about a 20th century or 21st century educational system and an economic system that will put as its major model, economic models that that will bring about prosperity and progress to this country. And some of it is about how to bring artificial intelligence to become part of the center of how we conduct our affairs, because to make it faster, to make them more transparent. Don't forget I'm the guy who said controversially that I'll make a drone my Minister of Defense and an AI a Minister of Finance, and everybody's like, how is that possible? But I'm on my way here this morning. I'm hearing that in China, primary school kids are already having included in their curriculum AI. We are still fighting over who wears hijab to go and write exams in Nigeria. So we're way back. We've missed out on 2-3 industrial revolution.
That is still be contested, though, to have artificial intelligence in the classroom.
Why not? It's part of your education.
Where's the information going to? Where's the data going to? Parental guidance and all.
It's the parent. In fact, this one puts parents in charge of education better than you've ever seen. Because with artificial intelligence, you can actually be a parent, have an app, and learn what your children are learning and know what they are being taught in school. Because you plug into the affairs of your children. Let me give you a small example. I have a program here on my on my phone. That's called Life 360. What does it do for me? It helps me to figure out where my kids are, even though they're in the US, when they are sleeping at home, when they are waking up, where they're in school. So if I call my daughter and say, "Where are you?" and she says, "I am in school," and she's not in school, I just say, "Look, Life 360 said you are not in school. What's going on here?" So I'm just using that as a small example of how parents can key into how kids
How
are
can
learning.
the
Also,
ordinary person in the village be able to use this application you're talking about?
there's virtually nobody in the village these days that don't have a good phone.
The data will shock you.
No, it
There
won't
are
shock
people
you.
who still do not understand what internet is.
So I will tell you this, and we can Google it here, that out of 200 million Nigerians, over 100 million of them have smartphones. You'll be shocked. Some of them are carrying two. So why you are still believing that the village people don't know? One day you find your grandmother on TikTok. And you'll be like shocked.
Let's
like,
talk about...
Grandma, what are you doing on TikTok?
Let's talk about something that's been on the front burner for some time, which is talks of a possible alliance.
Yes.
We understood that you were in a meeting in Port Harcourt with 2 other presidential candidates.
Yes.
Donald Duke and Mr.
Not Donald Duke, it's
Mr. Benga Hashim. Yes. And of course, Dewole Adebayo.
Yeah.
So the question, the question for you is, are you open to an alliance? If yes, why are you not also having meetings with who you might call the 2 major opposition parties going into the election?
No, I'm not. See, when people talk about alliance in Nigeria, especially within the realm of media discussions, the first thing and the only thing you're interested in an alliance is who steps down for who. And that's not what an alliance is about. Alliance are, meetings of interested parties on issue-based over, discussion. And I always say that I'm not opposed to alliance, but the alliance must be driven by the interest in what we stand for as a political party, the people, and that we have always been and continue to be in alliance with the oppressed. But the coalitions you talk about of these big parties is not about the people, it's about who replaces who to steal next from the National Treasury. That's not the kind of alliance. So, but you are now saying that I'm not opposed to alliance, and that's why we have this conversation that you are mentioning about, and had a discussion and said, look, if we are the candidates in this election that have almost the same ideological leaning, yeah, we can have a discussion that when the chips are down, this is where we stand. This is our position. We will not remove petroleum subsidy. All of us agree on that. We will pay workers very well. We agree on that. We will transform the educational sector radically. We agree on that. We will, start to go green in terms of, our power sector leaning. We agree on that. That's the basis for alliance. Our basis for alliance cannot be who's going to be the next SGF or who's going to become the central bank governor when we come to power. That's not the kind of alliance we...
But are you not also looking at platforms that have the structural backing and followership to give the ruling party a run for their money?
You have just been talking about Osun State now and talk about it a lot. The party that won in Osun State, I'm sure most of you did not even know about them until the governor of Osun State joined our court. Most people didn't know about it. So structures follow intent, right? They follow candidates. They follow character. So Nigerians, as I have studied them over time, politically don't really care about the structures of the political parties. And most of these political big parties, as you call them, don't really have structure. They have transactional platforms. It is the day that they want you, that they, to them, you are like a book in a library. When they want to read you, they'll go to that section, read you, and put you back and move on. They don't really have structures as such, and that's very important. The people who are looking for liberation, we form a liberation structure. The ones who want prosperity, we form a prosperity structure. The ones who choose death can follow these people to die, but we hope that we'll save everybody altogether.
Going to the general elections now, before we let you go, do you have any worries as regards to having a free, fair election?
Of course, that's
what are your biggest worries?
My biggest concern is I'm not worried because because of my attitude towards life. My biggest concern is that we are sleepwalking into another election that has already been decided, and it doesn't seem like most of the candidates see this. Several of the candidates that I see just...
If you think it's been decided already, why are you in the race? You're still in the race.
To undecided for them. That's why people like me are involved in.
And you think the AAC can do that alone?
Absolutely no. We can do it with the people. The AAC is a political party that has members, that has reach, and as you mentioned now, has friends and alliances.
All right.
Yes.
Great. I guess the election campaigns for presidential officially kickstarts today. We'll see more of Sowore, and let him let us know what he's going to do differently this time for the people of Nigeria. But thank you so much for being part of the program this morning and for coming quite in very early.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I just woke up and had to be here. So if I'm grudgy, please, guys, forgive me.
We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Always. Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, Mr. Sowore.
Thank you.
And as you go into the campaigns, we hope it's very much peaceful as well.
Yeah.
Right. The Morning Edition continues right after now. You don't want to miss the next conversation because it concerns you. So keep it right here on Real Broadcasting Network. We'll be right back.
Every street has a story. Every struggle carries hope. Every dream deserves a voice. We walk where the people walk. We honor our culture. We tell the stories that matter. This is not just news. This is your story, your voice, your network. Real Broadcasting Network. We the people.
RBN Today in History, August 19th. Vietnam's fight for independence reached a decisive moment as revolutionaries seized control of the nation's capital. On 19th August 1945, the Viet Minh successfully took control of Hanoi during the August Revolution, forcing the collapse of Japanese-backed authority in the city. Thousands of demonstrators rallied in support of the revolutionary movement, marking a turning point in Vietnam's struggle for independence. The capture of Hanoi paved the way for Ho Chi Minh to proclaim the independence of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam on 2nd September 1945, ending decades of colonial rule and ushering in a new chapter in Vietnamese history. And that's your RBN Today in History for August 19th.
Jesus, my brother, see road now. If na Lagos na traffic go don dey, no go anywhere. My brother, this is why I love Abuja. My brother, na city gate be this. Where you go see before you enter Abuja. If you enter Abuja and you never see this city gate, my brother, na Kemeru you dey. My brother, this is why I love Abuja. My brother, Abuja life too soft. After work like this, now here they come sit down. Then they see fine things that will be sonorous in my spirit. Now why I love Abuja with this? Unity for inside the diversity. Now what did they take to know Abuja for? Now why I love Abuja? You see this place for my back? Luxury on another level. You feel the waka inside. You don't know who you go meet who will change your life. My brother, this is why I love Abuja.
But the real reason wey make me like Abuja na because of real 99.3 where if you say we dey chook mouth on top real talk and na really people and all of us go gather together to dey for chook mouth on top real matter.
You can always set the agenda here on the Real Broadcasting Network. See it, record it, and share it with us via the free Real Broadcasting Network mobile app for iOS and Android. It's simple. See it, record it, and share it to see it make news headlines. It is Real Broadcasting Network. We the people. This is Real 993. Time check is 8 a.m. From our global news center, we bring you the latest happenings on the real news.
This is the Arabian News Hour from the Real Broadcasting Network. I am Sufyan Ibrahim, and here are the top stars. Former Minister of Education Obiageli Ezekwesili has called on President Bola Tinubu to suspend and review a €746 million ports financing agreement between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Ezekwesili said greater transparency is needed over the deal, particularly its repayment terms, interest rate, procurement process, and foreign exchange risks. She also urged the federal government to disclose the full terms of the agreement, including the contractors involved and how they were selected. Ezekwesili argued that the concerns are important given Nigeria's debt obligations and the potential impact of foreign currency borrowing on public finances. In a new development, the U.S. Coast Guard has lifted the condition of entry imposed on vessels from Nigeria, ending a 12-year restriction introduced in June 2014. The move follows efforts by the Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, NEMASA, and other stakeholders to improve maritime security and compliance with international standards. Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, says the decision follows 4 security assessments conducted by the U.S. Coast Guard between 2024 and 2026, which showed significant improvement in Nigeria's maritime security and compliance with international standards. He describes the development as a major milestone that could strengthen confidence in Nigeria's ports and improve the country's participation in global maritime trade. Away from security, for millions of people, content creation is now big business. But as YouTube tightens its monetization rules, African creators say they face another challenge, earning less from their content than creators in markets such as the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. So, why does this gap exist? And what does it mean for Africa's fast-growing creator economy? Belema Ikiriko tells us more.
In February 2027, new YouTube Partner Program applicants will need 8,000 valid public watch hours in 12 months, or 20 million shorts views in 90 days, to qualify for the higher monetization tier. This is double the current 4,000 watch hour or 10 million shorts view threshold.
So YouTube just rolled out some new requirements when it comes to monetizations, and these are very bad. It's basically not good, and it's looking very bad for small creators like me. So as if the 4,000 watch hours wasn't enough, it has now been doubled to 8,000 watch hours.
But for creators in Nigeria and across Africa, the challenge goes beyond qualifying. Many say their earnings from the same volume of views can be significantly lower than creators whose audiences are concentrated in markets such as the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada.
I have over 50 million views on TikTok. Do you know how much money I've made?
$0.
I post weekly, sometimes daily, and TikTok still runs ads through my content, but I get nothing because I'm Canadian. If I lived in the US, I could have made $20,000 to $50,000 just this year using the same views with their creativity program. But in Canada, nothing. And yet TikTok still profits off of us.
For creators, this creates a difficult business equation. And as YouTube becomes more selective about monetization, experts say creators are being pushed to produce original, consistent, and valuable content, not simply chase views.
Before you go out and start making videos, posting online, hoping for views and money from the ad revenue, think of a business behind what you are doing, okay? Or think of an audience that you want to cultivate to the point where those brands and businesses can come to you to advertise to your audience.
For many African creators, the answer may be to look beyond platform advertising towards sponsorships, brand partnerships, subscriptions, and their own product. Because in the creator economy, the real value may not just be in the views, but in what creators can build around them. Belama Ikiriko, RBN News.
And that is the RBN News Hour. Thank you for staying with us on the Real Broadcasting Network. Stay informed with more stories on our website at www.therealmediang.com. Also download the RBN app on Google Play Store and Apple Store for iOS devices. You can also follow us across all social media platforms at The Real Media NG for real-time updates and in-depth coverage. I am Sufyan Ibrahim. Over to the Morning Edition crew. Please stay tuned and good morning.
From our global news center, we bring you the latest happenings on the real news. Real Media on radio, on TV, and online. A part of Real Broadcasting Network.
Let's go! RBN Today in History. To global attention as a Scottish explorer reached the legendary River Niger. On 19th August 1805, Scottish explorer Mungo Park reached the Niger River. Commissioned by the British government, Park sought to trace the river's course and determine where it flowed, a question that had puzzled European geographers for centuries. Although the expedition ultimately ended in tragedy with Park's death later that year, his journeys greatly expanded European knowledge of the Niger River and the interior of West Africa, making him one of the region's most famous early explorers. And that's your RBN Today in History for August 19th.
Every street has a story. Every struggle carries hope. Every dream deserves a voice. We walk where the people walk. We honor our culture. We tell the stories that matter. This is not just news. This is your story, your voice, your network. Real Broadcasting Network. We the people.
Thank you for staying tuned with us right here on the Real Broadcasting Network. It's still the morning edition, and right now we'll turn our attention to our first commentary, looking at Ibrahim Babangida, who stands now at 85. And once again, Nigeria is having the argument that it has never really finished having about the man popularly known as IBB. Some Nigerians are celebrating an elder statesman and former military ruler. Others, like our guest we just had, I'm well sure, asking how Nigerians can celebrate the man they blame for some of the country's deepest political and economic problems. But perhaps we are asking the questions this morning when we make this only about whether Babangida should be celebrated or not. The more important question is, what exactly did Ibrahim Babangida do to Nigerians? What decision did he make between 1985 and 1993? And what were the consequences, and how much of the Nigeria we currently live in and the struggles we have today can be traced to his period in government?
Well, to answer that question, Marian, let me take you through a bit of history. As far back as 1985, August 27, Nigeria was already in serious trouble before Babangida arrived. The country had gone through the oil boom of the 1970s, massive public spending, declining oil revenues, mounting debt, and economic instability. Muhammadu Buhari's military government had taken power in December 1983, and less than 2 years later, Babangida removed Buhari in another military coup. He became the head of state and was in charge for 8 years. So let's, establish that first. Babangida was not. an elected president. It was a military ruler who seized power and governed through military authority. And I mean, this is important in the conversation because one of the biggest arguments against his legacy is that the man who later presented himself as the architect of Nigeria's return to democracy actually spent 8 years ruling without a democratic mandate. Ironical, some people might say.
I mean, but it would also be unfair to start the, story with Babangida and, pretend that Nigeria was in a healthy democracy and a prosperous economy too before he arrived. If you look at history, the country was already facing some economic crisis. Oil prices had fallen sharply, government revenue had collapsed, foreign exchange was scarce, and Nigeria was struggling with external debt. I mean, just look at what we have today. If you date it back, it feels like we still have same struggles, same problems. Over year in, year out, and years down the line, we're still yet to address some of these issues. When we look at IMF records, show that Nigeria external debt rose from $19.3 billion in 1985 to $23.2 billion in 1986 and $30 billion in 1987. This is history now. The central bank's historical data also shows the debt burden becoming even much heavier as a share of GDP during his period. I mean, total domestic external debt was 62.5% of GDP in 1985, rising to 95.7% in 1986, 126.4% in 1987, and 128.3% in 1993. So when we say Babangida inherited an economy in crisis, you could say that's a fact, but that is just half of the story. The question is what he did with the crisis he inherited, what he did do with it. Did he get Nigerians out of it?
And that brings us to the policy that perhaps did more than anything else to shape the economic experience of the Babangida years. It was called the Structural Adjustment Program, SAP. In 1986, Babangida's government adopted SAP after months of debate about how Nigeria should respond to its economic crisis. The program was built around devaluing the naira, reducing the government control, liberalizing trade and foreign exchange, and all of that. On paper, there was an economic argument for it. Nigeria had a foreign exchange crisis, an uncompetitive exchange rate, and Marian had talked about a huge debt burden as well. But the problem was what happened to Nigerians when those policies were implemented.
Because when we look at it closely, SAP did not just merely change economic policies. It changed the cost of living. The naira was substantially devalued, and the government moved towards market-determined exchange rate. That meant imported goods became more expensive, but it also meant imported machineries, raw materials, and other inputs became more expensive for Nigerian businesses.
Absolutely. Well, it was what you might call a turning point. If we're going to give Babangida credit for what happened under his administration, then we must also hold him responsible for the consequences of the policies of that administration. For instance, that SAP that we just mentioned. You cannot say the good things belong to Babangida while the bad things belong to history. His government made decisions. Those decisions affected businesses, workers, farmers, students, and household. And that's why SAP remains a sensitive subject. For many Nigerians who lived through that period, the memories are not academic. They remember prices rising. They remember the value of their money falling. They remember businesses closing. They remember the growing sense that Nigeria was becoming poorer, even while the government was telling the country that reforms were necessary. So it appears perhaps Nigerian people have heard that phrase before. And away from that, there's also the issue of politics, where Babangida's legacy becomes even more difficult to defend. He came to power through a coup. The transition kept changing. Political parties were created by government decree. Candidates were screened. Primaries were cancelled and rerun. The military government continued to determine the rules of the democratic game up until June 12, 1993. And this is the point where Babangida's legacy changes forever. Well, Nigerians went to the polls to elect a president, Moshood Kashimawo Olaole Abiola of the SDP, contested against Bashir Tofa of the National Republican Convention. And that election was widely regarded as credible, and reported results showed Abiola with a substantial lead. And I mean, on June 23, the military government stopped the release of the results and annulled the election. And this is where Nigerians who blame Babangida for damaging Nigeria's democracy have their strongest argument, because whatever explanation the government gave at the time, the political consequence was straightforward. Nigerians voted, the military government did not allow the result to stand. And you might want to say that shattered public confidence in the transition game. And I mean, when you fast forward all the way to now, you know, with celebration of his 85th birthday, all we have to ask is the most difficult question of all. After 8 years at the time of Babangida, was Nigeria actually better prepared for the future than it was when he took over? That is the question history has not finished answering. And perhaps that is also why, at 85, Babangida remains one of the most controversial figures in Nigeria's modern history, because Nigerians are simply not arguing about whether to celebrate him. They are arguing about what his era did to the country. And the little time that we have for this commentary obviously cannot do justice to all of the issues that needs to be raised and addressed. And until Nigeria can honestly answer that question, the debate will continue. And perhaps it should, because the country that forgets how it got here may find it difficult to understand where it is going. And that is, in fact, where we leave the Babangida question for now, here on the morning edition. Up next, we move to Business Brief with Marian Delekwe. Stay with us.
Welcome to Business Brief for today. It's, of course, the 19th day of August 2026. And now, the Bank of Industry is recording strong investor interest in Nigeria's domestic debt market with its latest 250 billion naira Series 1 fixed rate bond, attracting demand beyond the amount initially offered. The development is providing another indication that investors are willing to commit capital to Nigerian institutions, particularly where the funds are being channeled into productive sectors of the economy. Now, the 250 billion naira issuance is forming part of the Bank of Industry's broader strategy to raise long-term funding for lending to businesses across critical sectors, including manufacturing, infrastructure, and other areas considered important to economic growth. Now, market watchers said the response to the bond is significant because it is demonstrating continued appetite for high-quality Nigerian debt instruments despite the challenges facing the wider economy. For businesses, increased access to institutional financing could help ease some of the pressure created by high borrowing costs and limited access to long-term credit. Now, the BOI is expected to deploy the funds towards financing productive enterprises, making the success of the bonds potentially important not just for investors, but also for manufacturers and other businesses looking for funding to expand operations and create more jobs. Nigeria's 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory are collectively budgeting about 40 trillion naira in 2026, representing a 47% increase compared with the previous year. Now, the sharp rise is reflecting the significant increase in government spending plans across the country as states receive higher revenues while facing growing demands for infrastructure, salaries, healthcare, education, and other public services. Now, the increase is particularly significant because state governments are controlling a large share of public spending outside the federal government. Higher allocations from the Federation account are giving states more resources to work with, but the larger budgets are also raising questions about how much of the money is actually translating into capital projects. Analysis of the 2026 budget is showing that while overall spending is rising substantially, the proportion allocated to capital expenditure is declining. This means a larger share of state resources could be going towards recurrent obligations such as personal cost, administration, and debt servicing. Now, the development is putting greater attention on how efficiently state governments are managing their expanding revenues, with infrastructure deficits still affecting many parts of the country. Analysts say increased allocation will also have a meaningful economic impact if they are converted into productive investment. And for businesses and residents of the country now, the size of state budgets matters because government spending can stimulate economic activities, support local contractors, and improve infrastructure. And now, the Nigerian Exchange and Stanbic IBTC are pushing for deeper use of securities lending as part of efforts to improve liquidity and efficiency in Nigeria's capital market. The initiative is aimed at strengthening trading activities by making it easier for investors and market participants to borrow securities, support market making, and execute more sophisticated investment strategies. And now, security lenders allow an investor to temporarily lend shares to another market participant in exchange for a fee, with the securities later returned. The mechanism is widely used to develop capital markets and can support greater liquidity by increasing the availability of securities for trading. For Nigeria's equity market, expanding securities lending could help address one of its long-standing challenges, relatively low liquidity in some stocks. A deeper lending market could give institutional investors more flexibility while supporting market making and other trading activities. Now, the push is coming as the Nigerian capital market is seeking to attract more institutional and foreign investors and develop products beyond traditional share trading, greater securities lending activity, and could also improve price discovery by allowing investors to take more diverse positions based on their expectations of market movement. For the NGX now, the objective is ultimately to build a more active and effective and efficient market where investors can enter and exit positions more easily. Increased participation and liquidity could strengthen the attractiveness of Nigerian equities and support the broader development of the country's capital market. Up ahead is sports highlights with Ugochukwu Madimere. There's news in Premier League and more on Sports Highlight. Thank you for being part of Business Brief today. I'm Marian Delepe. Business Brief is rounding off right now as Sports Highlights Global Pulse take over.
All right, we move to sports now, where Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters has criticized FIFA President Gianni Infantino's World Cup sell-off plan, saying the organization has pressed the self-destruct button by delivering a self-inflicted wound. Infantino is under increasing pressure over his attempt, later abandoned, to create a new company to manage the commercial and ticketing rights of all FIFA competitions, including the World Cups, with 21% sold off to a private investment company. Now, FIFA Forward Enterprise, FFE, was aborted after widespread criticism from several confederations led by UEFA, which in fact threatened a boycott of all FIFA competitions. Masters, the Premier League chief executive, backed the English Football Association's withdrawal of support for Infantino and called for a new candidate for the presidency who could unify football. But so far, he says what FIFA is going through right now is self-inflicted. And away from that, Senegal have appointed France's 1998 World Cup winner Patrick Vieira as head coach. The country's football federation announced yesterday, and it's succeeding Pape Thiaw, who was dismissed after the World Cup. The appointment of Vieira, who was born in Senegal, is a strategic move, the federation said in a social media post, aiming to establish a high-level technical staff in line with the country's sporting ambitions. His main mission will be to revitalize the team after Senegal's bruising loss to Belgium in the last 32 of the World Cup. Pape Thiaw was sacked less than 2 weeks later. The 45-year-old former Senegal international had taken over as national team boss in 2024. And, well, of course, he had won the AFCON with them, which is now being contested in the Court of Arbitration for Sports. But Patrick Vieira is back home. Moving on, Bayern Munich midfielder Jamal Musiala said he's suffering from a neurological disorder after a second on-field collapse in 3 days. On Tuesday, the 23-year-old German international fell to the turf just minutes after coming on late in a preseason friendly at Heidenheim. Similar incident took place on Saturday in Bayern's home win over RB Leipzig. On Tuesday in Heidenheim, Musiala appeared dazed as he received medical treatment and was helped off the pitch. But he later made a post on social media that he had a disorder which could lead to temporary but treatable seizures. This is not the kind of stuff that we want to see. Yes, temporary, but if it is treatable, can we treat it? We don't want to see one of our favorite players collapsing, fainting on the pitch. Really scary sight to see. He said that I know they may seem scary at first glance, but for me, they are currently simply part of my everyday life. And you have to feel sad when you hear a statement like that. Of course, Musiala had missed the first 6 months of last season due to a broken ankle sustained at the Club World Cup, but he returned in the second half of the campaign and played for Germany at the 2026 World Cup. Now, away from that, Spain's World Cup winning captain Rodri said he was ready to feel excitement again after completing his move to Barcelona from Premier League side Manchester City. In a statement on their website, the La Liga champions said the 30-year-old has signed a deal that will run until 2030, bringing an end to one of the longest-running transfer sagas of the summer. After 2 failed bids, Barca and Man City reached a deal which a source from the English club said would go up to 76.5 million, including bonuses. He arrived at the Catalan capital the following day to thresh out personal terms with his new club. After 7 trophy-laden years at Man City, the former Atletico Madrid and Villarreal player was reported to be close to joining Real Madrid before finally opting for their arch rivals. The midfielder, of course, has struggled with injuries over the past 2 seasons, but shown as Spain won their second World Cup in North America last month. And it's a big welcome to the big man, Rodrigo Hernandez Casante. Well, let's round off with news emanating from tennis, where Serena and Venus Williams lost a thriller at the Cincinnati Open in their first doubles match together for 4 years. The American pair were beaten 6-2, 1-6, 10-8 by Marta Kostyuk and Peyton Stearns in front of a packed crowd. The sisters played together at the 2022 US Open, which was Serena's final tournament before she evolved away from tennis. But now it appears she has made her return, and this is the first in doubles in June before playing singles at Wimbledon as a wild card. But, I mean, that's the much you can take on sports this morning. Up next is developments on the global stage on Global Pulse this morning. All right, on Global Pulse this morning, a 4.8 magnitude earthquake is hitting Spain's southern Granada region, injuring 3 people and damaging buildings as the area is continuing to experience a series of tremors. The latest earthquake is sending residents into the streets as buildings shake, while emergency services are responding to reports of damage and carrying out inspections. Authorities are also restricting access to parts of the historic Alhambra complex as a precaution while officials assess the impact of the activity. The latest tremor is coming only days after a stronger earthquake struck the same area, damaging houses and vehicles, and the repeated tremors are now raising concerns among residents and authorities. The emergency teams are continuing to assess affected buildings, while officials are monitoring the area for further seismic activity. The immediate concern is whether another potentially stronger earthquake could follow the latest sequence, and that's really worrying. The situation is also affecting one of Spain's most important tourist attractions. Access to parts of the Alhambra is being restricted while safety assessments are taking place, with authorities seeking to protect visitors and staff as the ground continues to shake. Granada is attracting large numbers of tourists, meaning the authorities are having to manage both public safety and disruption to a major tourism destination. Residents are also being urged to remain cautious and follow instructions from emergency officials. Well, elsewhere, the Strait of Hormuz is remaining at the center of a tense standoff between Iran and the United States, with both sides continuing to give conflicting accounts of the situation around the strategic waterway. President Donald Trump is saying the strait is open, while Iran is maintaining that it remains closed until Washington meets conditions linked to the wider confrontation. The disagreement is creating fresh uncertainty for international shipping and energy markets, with oil prices now rising for the 4th consecutive day. The crisis is also putting renewed focus on diplomacy between Washington and Tehran. Trump is saying there are currently no talks scheduled with Iran, while Tehran is continuing to reject the American position over the strait. that is leaving negotiations at an uncertain point, with neither side appearing ready to concede on the major issues. Well, meanwhile, governments and businesses that depend heavily on Middle Eastern energy supplies are watching the situation closely, concerned that a prolonged disruption could increase fuel and electricity cost and add to inflationary pressures. For the global economy, the concern is becoming bigger than the dispute between the two countries. Now, if the flow of oil through the Hormuz remains disrupted, the consequences could be felt in transportation, manufacturing, and consumer prices across major economies. And it appears we're feeling some of that even back home in Nigeria. Now, the United States is temporarily putting planned 50% tariffs on Canadian goods on hold, giving Washington and Ottawa 3 more days to work toward a trade agreement. President Donald Trump is announcing the pause after speaking with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, saying the two sides are making progress toward a deal. The move is preventing the immediate implementation of another major tariff increase between two of the world's largest trading partners, but it is also creating a fresh deadline for negotiators. The proposed tariffs are threatening to affect billions of dollars in trade between the two countries, with goods including energy products, manufactured items, agricultural commodities, and automobiles crossing the US-Canada border every day. Now, the next 3 days are becoming critical for the US-Canada relationship. If negotiators succeed, the temporary pause could become the foundation for a broader trade deal and prevent another escalation between the two neighbors. But if talks break down, the threatened tariffs could return and push fresh pressure on businesses, consumers, and supply chains across North America. Well, for now, Washington and Ottawa are contributing negotiations, with the clock already continuing down toward the new deadline. Well, developments emanating from the South African nation of Zambia as well, where President Hakainde Hichilema has been re-elected for a second term. But that's so much you can take on Global Pulse this morning. Our next big conversation is up next on the morning edition. Stay with us.
Every street has a story. Every struggle carries hope. Every dream deserves a voice. We walk where the people walk. We honor our culture. We tell the stories that matter. This is not just news. This is your story, your voice, your network. Real Broadcasting Network. We the people.
RBN Today in History, August 19th. Vietnam's fight for independence reached a decisive moment as revolutionaries seized control of the nation's capital. On 19th August 1945, the Viet Minh successfully took control of Hanoi during the August Revolution, forcing the collapse of Japanese-backed authority in the city. Thousands of demonstrators rallied in support of the revolutionary movement, marking a turning point in Vietnam's struggle for independence. The capture of Hanoi paved the way for Ho Chi Minh to proclaim the independence of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam on 2nd September 1945, ending decades of colonial rule and ushering in a new chapter in Vietnamese history. And that's your RBN Today in History for August 19th.
Torrential rains over the weekend turned streets in Abuja into fast-flowing rivers. In districts like Maitama and Wuse, residents woke up to flood waters surging through gates, submerging vehicles and damaging properties. Emergency Management Team FEMA raised the alert of flooding and elevated risk levels at Lugbe, Katampe, Utako, Wuse to Asokoro, among other districts in the FCT.
The peak period in the FCT between July to September, where prolonged rainfall and rising river levels are expected to increase flood risk in the FCT.
But how has the recent flooding affected roadside businesses in the Maitama area? Roadside traders help answer this question.
Rainfall, the flow here is too much. So when the rain fall like that everywhere, we can't stand on the rain like that to say, because we cannot even stand there. All of us will run inside.
Like around Transcorp, when it's dark, the water always blocks the road, including drainage and manholes. The water is too much on the road, and when you enter the water to sell, your bike can have issues and water will destroy what you are selling. Like the gala I'm selling, water destroys it.
Is Abuja now becoming the new Lagos? Are we going to be seeing more of floods in Abuja? Well, from the Trademore Estate in Lugbe, Abuja, Dorothy Monday, RB News.
All right, glad to know you're still with us right here on Rebroadcasting Network. The morning edition is still live. And of course, we now turn our attention to flooding. You just saw that report from correspondent Dorothy Monday, looking at the large effect of the flooding. Residents are saying we've never seen it in the city center like this before. I mean, flooding in Maitama, in Wuse too, Gadua and all, right? We've never seen it this large. But then, with heavy rainfall exposing concerns around the drainage capacity and, blocked waterways, development in flooding-prone areas, and of course, overall resilience of Abuja's infrastructure. We've got to look at that situation very much at the moment with our guest live in the studio with us. But before we get right into having a discussion with our guest, the FCT minister has weighed into the situation and a lot of development has emanated from that.
Yes, indeed. We're now seeing the FCTA's demolition of some structures, saying, of course, the FCT minister said the buildings were obstructing drainage channels and contributing to flooding, right? Which brings us to the debate about a fundamental question. What is happening now? Are we dealing with a rainfall problem? Is it a planning problem? Is it a construction or weak enforcement, that's making Abuja more vulnerable to flooding at the moment? Those are some of the issues we're going to try to unpack this morning. And we have joining us an expert in disaster risk reduction and a retired director of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, in the person of Mr. Kaide Fagbemi. Good morning to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Pleased to be here.
All right. Now, let's start with the flooding that we've seen across major parts of the city. From your experience, what are the major factors, that have led to this? Is it the intensity of the rainfall? Because earlier there had been this advisory from the hydrological services that it was going to be really heavy this year. Or are we looking at a problem with drainage or maybe urban planning? What exactly has gotten Abuja to this point?
Thank you so much for your questions. And, human beings are very good at passing blames. We pass blame, it is a natural disaster. It's not natural. It is an act of God. It's not an act of God. And the blame system came from Adam and Eve. Oh, Adam, where are you? Have you eaten of the fruit I gave to you? Oh, it is the wife you gave me. The problem, it is we. I knew this 3 years ago when I saw that they have tampered with area that should not have been touched. Just as we are here, you look right now, you see the top of the hill there. It's being built. It should not have been built up. Now, when Abuja was to be capital of Nigeria, geographers led by Professor Mabugunje with Professor Ologe and all that, they were made to select a site. They got to Gwagwalada. If you notice, Gwagwalada is flat. They didn't choose for it. They just, this is the best place to put the capital. This place is undulating. You see a lot of hill, a lot of lowland and all that. And they recommended, they said, keep development of the valleys. Keep development of the valley. You have a valley before us here. There is a development there. Keep development of the hills. You are not, because when you build on the hill, you are removing, there are trees there. Right. You remove the trees. You now put permanent structure. The water cannot infiltrate. And so when I saw some 3 years and decided allocating those valleys, I said, there's going to be crisis. I was on AIT and all that. I said, there are going to be crisis in future. There will be flood. I don't even know it will come soon. Because these valleys are the areas where all the water flowing from all the hill, every high will come to the valley. Now you have built it, you have made it impervious. No, the water will find a level. So when you allocated the valley, what you do is that you block the water from coming to the valley. And so it is not
the increase in the rainfall, it is not a natural thing. It is because we have tampered. We have tampered with the land cover and the land use. I want to explain to you, before Abuja became like this, we have all, we have what we call the hydrology, the waters, all the rain that falls, they go somewhere. There's a way they flow. But you come, you block everywhere, you have built everywhere. Every area you have built up, water can no longer percolate. It cannot infiltrate. Then you have to leave some areas of your compound so that the water from, that should have, you have maybe 1,000 square meters of land, you have built about 700, the 300, you should leave some 200 so that rain coming to your area, some can percolate, but you have paved it all. Interlocking, cementing, everything, the water. So you direct the water to the road, and that's what you see. Everybody directs their own runoff to the road, and so this is the problem. It is not about the NIMET prediction. It is about our tampering with the land use and land cover, and we need to do something fast. The recommendations is that because it's an undulating, all the low land should be left. But do you see what they have done? As I was coming, I saw an area that have not been built for many years. And if you recall, there was a minister some time ago that came and demolished structures in those areas. They were called gardens then. There were those gardens. They were built up by people that didn't have certificate of occupancy. They were not allocated directly. So they built the place up. And so what the minister said, we didn't give you this, put it down. But now it seems as if, because some of the structures I'm seeing in those areas, that those people now have documentation, they have allocation, full allocation, which means that they have tampered with the natural resources, the natural area that should have been left. And when you tamper with it, water will find its level. And that's what you are seeing now in FCT.
All right. So there's a plan for the city,
yes,
which the Federal Capital Territory Administration has access to. They know the plan. But they're also the ones who are giving approval for some of these structures to be erected on the valleys, for instance, that you mentioned. What does that tell us?
Yeah, it tells us that somebody did not understand what the consequences of the actions. Because what is happening, what I have seen is that it seems as if people don't want to leave the city any longer. The little spaces available in the city, everybody is putting something. I can see in the front of me directly. I see, people go to the valley. What are you doing in the valley? Of course, you have the capacity to do a lot of piling, put a lot of money there and build. But it's going to cause problem in the future because the valley should act as a sponge for the city. That is where the water goes. Those are the valleys that should collect water, with a lot of the water coming from the hill, from everywhere. And so we run to the valleys naturally. But where will they run to now? They will be on the roads and they will cause flooding. Because the person who has that big structure I'm looking at now, will not want. So he will going to build an embankment, push the water back to the roads. And that's what's happening. So somebody did not understand that all that, civil servants, they are very clever. They have some written rules. The written rules, two actually. They said, one, the boss is always right. And number two, when you think that the boss is wrong, reverse to rule number one, which says again, the boss is always right. So you don't want to confront your boss and lose your job. We don't know if the directors there or people there may have advice and the advice are not taken. So somebody did not understand the consequences. If you know, I will, after I leave here, I will try to visit where they are demolishing. They must have put in millions of money in that area. And that's what will happen. The demolitions will go back. I will name some areas as we go forward where they have allocated between Wuse Zone 5, between Bega and Wuse Market. by the left. It used to be a garden, a park. Trees are there. And when we are talking about sustainable city, we are talking about living green areas. The green, they absorb, the carbon we are releasing, then give us oxygen. You demolish, you put structure there. This city will be flooded. This city will become hotter as time goes on. The hills we are bringing down, there will be landslide in future because all the water coming from the hill will bring these buildings down. And then there will be what we call disaster. So we normally say disasters are not natural. Some people say, oh, this is a natural disaster. No. It is hazard that is natural. Disasters are human-made. They are human-induced. It is our actions and inactions that leads to disaster. And that's what we are seeing now. Thank God that maybe nobody died, but this water will increase in future. The water you saw, they will surely
higher
increase.
Than this level.
Yes, they will increase because they have not finished building those valleys. I saw in Minister's Hill in Matama, I saw that when I saw the valley, in Mississippi, and I said, what are they doing here? This place should not be touched at all. And I saw the hill being brought down. All the rain that comes, where will they flow to? They will flow somewhere. So they go to the natural areas where it is the lowland, the valley. And they should have been in those areas. If trees are there, of course. We say when there is a flood, it doesn't kill anybody. It doesn't affect your property. It doesn't destroy the environment. It's not a disaster. So disaster is not just flood. It is the one that destroyed the environment. So if there is a lot of those floods in the valley, there are no houses there, only trees are there, you will see they will even push down some of the trees. It's part of the ecosystem.
I like that you mentioned pushing down of trees because in recent times we saw even trees being cut down to give way for billboards as well.
That is another thing. That is what will increase the carbon. The carbon in the city. We are going to have
heat wave.
The heat. There will be heat in the city because what the trees do for us, they absorb all the carbon dioxide, and then we give us oxygen. But we just cut them down as if they are not important. They are important to us. They bring life to us. So we are talking about climate change. Yes, climate change only increases what we get on the ground. And that's why we need to make our city a sustainable city. We are not now. We are not. How many electric car are we using? Most of us were born. As I was coming to the studio, some cars with a lot of carbon monoxide, some vehicles and all that. So, and then we're not having enough of electric cars or energy-saving cars. We're having all this, and we're cutting down trees, and we're building. We're not planting other ones. Those are the crises we are going to face.
Mr. Kayode,
yes, please.
Where do we go from here? What's the solution? As regards to NEMA now, the agency, it's an emergency that happened. There are people who went on to events on Saturday. When they came out of the event center, the cars they came in with has been submerged in water and they couldn't even get home with those cars anymore. This has happened again, and it's looking like what you said, it's still going to happen and even get even worse than this. Correct. So what can we do? What is the solution? Demolition of structures. The minister has said from now to Saturday, a lot of structures are going to come down. Is that the solution? Because if you also go ahead to ask the owners of this property, they'll tell you they have their C of O's. They have the rights document to back why they have those property. Who allocated the properties in the first place is coming from the authorities. So what is the solution to this disaster that we have?
Thank you so much. I hope the minister has the political will to demolish all the structure that should go down. Part of it is, the police, they are building a lot of structures in Zone 5. Just after Bega Junction, they are building that structure there. Then there's another one, maybe hotel, I don't know what they're building. They needs to be parked. If the political will is there, I will give kudos to him. What you need to do as individuals, there's what we call risk transfer. You cannot go to NEMA and say, NEMA, my car got destroyed, come and pay me. NEMA is not an insurance company. So transfer your risk to insurance company. You are no longer going to do third-party insurance, pay 5,000 a year. No. Pay comprehensive. If those that have the car have comprehensive insurance, the insurance company will pay them. So we must learn now to insure your house, to insure your cars, to insure your property, because that's how to transfer risk. Because if you are waiting for government to compensate you, government cannot compensate in the first instance. But because of the inaction or inaction of the government, disaster occurs. So the way to go is, as the minister has started, that's a good way. It's a good way to start, demolishing and making sure all the valleys are left as they should be. I agree with him to some extent that some of those gardens, while with they've been with criminals who are there, they will turn them to joints, pepper soup joint and drinking joint. No. They should have been recreation parks. They should have been made clean, neat, so that the criminals are not hiding there. But that doesn't mean you should change to building permanent structures, high-rise in the valley. No, because you're able to favor somebody and he is able to achieve something. But what happens with the water? Where do you? And another thing, all the drainages, in some areas of Abuja, we have underground drainages. Many of them are blocked. They should remove all those and clear the drains. Make the water, give them access. Water should have free access, right of way. That's what you need to do.
But those buildings that will be brought down and demolished now by government, will the people get some sort of compensation?
If they have the CFO, if they have the certificate of occupancy, somebody has allocated it to them, somebody has given them power to build, has approved their plan, and then, we are sorry, they should compensate them. They should be compensated. But if it's an illegal structure, of course, you are. That was why when the Obasanjo regime, they were not compensated. They said, no, you are building a legal structure. And that is another thing. You see how disaster transfer resources from the poor to the rich. Do you know why? What happened to, what is Maroko called today? It's called Lekki. The poor people were there. This place is flooding. No. They demolish it. And they gave it to the rich people now. We have a plot of land there, millions, and then you give it to the rich. They're still being flooded. Okay, so you took it away from people who built there illegally and were doing business or sleeping there and all that. You now give it to a company to build heavy structure, high-rising in the valley. That is not acceptable. The hills, nobody should tamper with them any longer. As I'm looking at Minister Hill from here, I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. Yes, they are there, enjoy. But in the future, there will be landslide there. It will cause problems.
You're part of the conversation, very much part of it. You can let us know. You have questions to understand how this is. You're even affected. Your cars, your house is affected. You can let us know via the phone line. You're listening to us via the radio. It's Real 99.3 FM. You can text us or go to our live broadcast on YouTube, the Real Broadcasting Network, and leave your comments. But the number to dial is 09062029933. We've got limited time, but we can take one or two calls of yours as regards to the flooding that happened over the weekend in Abuja. And we have Mr. Kayode in the studio with us, helping us understand all of these problems and how we can get out of it. Now, the phone line again is 09062029933. Now, Mr. Kayode, back to you now. We've been here before. There's been demolition in the capital before. People lost their homes and all. And here we are again. There's been an order to demolish, some of these buildings going forward, even up to Saturday and even beyond. How can we permanently solve this problem and not get back to it again?
That is, it is, we've been serious. We've been serious. What I've seen in the last few years is that it seems that every available small space people want to build, they don't want to go outside the main city, Maitama, Gariki, Wuse, they don't even want to go there, Asokoro. These are the people want to be now. Every small areas, you remember that even when government built some building over 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they left spaces. Some of these spaces they left, have been converted now. Where do we go from here? It is that we should ensure that nobody tampers with area that should not be built, no matter how highly placed you are. Don't allocate it, because that is about sustainability. If we encroach natural floodplain, it will lead to disaster in future. And it is not because the rains are increasing, it is because you have gone to do the wrong thing. So flood on its own is a natural phenomenon. Yeah, there will be years there will be increase in rainfall, there will be years there will be less rainfall, but make sure there's enough provision. And in the last, we need to now make if you know that the drainages that were made many years back. I've not seen drainages being made in Abuja of recent. No. I've not
so
seen.
All of this infrastructure going on, the roads being built, we're not building drainages alongside?
That is the thing. In the city, I cannot see. I don't know where drainages have been built. So we need to expand the one that have been built, because we are having increased runoff. And why should everybody pay for its compound?
All right. Quickly, we'll take this call from Bode from Yanya. Good morning to you, Mr. Bode.
Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning. Let's keep it very brief.
Miriam, your guest has just said it all. I think some time ago, in the thing that Tama is talking about, if you look at Amazon, just close to front of once you come out, that valley has also been built. The drainages has not been taken care of. If you go to Otako Park now, just in front of OP, I'm saying it specifically, see the water coming out there, nobody cares about it. The entire drainage there has been blocked. The Metama itself must every space be built on. Those places that we are demolishing the Aero-5, there was a purpose where those places were demolished.
Buddy, you got a question?
The entire
straight
place has been
ahead.
built.
We're almost out of time, buddy.
So let's do the need for that. Why? Just like what he said, if you come back and hunt us.
Thank you for your contribution. You can also leave your comments on our live feed on YouTube channel, the Rebroadcasting Network. Let us know. But we still have Mr. Kayode in the studio, of course, letting us understand all of this disaster that you said. Now, they are not, God-made. They are handmade, right? And you have also said, build away from the city center. There are also other satellite towns you can go ahead and develop. Exactly. People can go to Gwagwalada.
Exactly.
There's Kuje. People can go over there.
Exactly.
You mustn't be in Maitama. You mustn't be in Guzape or in Asokoro.
Exactly. And we need to know that we need to make this future sustainable for the future generation.
Okay.
It's not just for us here. Right. What are we leaving for our children?
Apologize. We have Edmond on the line. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Quickly, 30 seconds. Edward from Wuse.
Yeah, actually, I am not holding brief for those who beat along the river line, but I think the government should go beyond this. You know, some of these river drains have been filtered up by sand for many years. So I think government should have gone beyond this by dredging all the river channels within Abuja so that they can create a volume. So that if this water is coming, instead of overflowing, they can be accommodated within the river channel. I think that's what I know is being done in most countries. Some of the channels are filled up over the years. So I'm sure that Abuja River has not been dredged over 30 or 40 years. And I'm surprised that Wike is the one who is complaining about encroachment. He is the one that is championing it. All the guidance he has provided them.
Thank you, Mr. Edward.
So he shouldn't be the one who will be campaigning for this.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution, Mr. Kayode Fagbemi. Thank you so much for your time on the program this morning. 30 seconds, your parting words now for the Abuja people.
Thank you so much. I just want everyone to be prepared. Mm-hmm. You should not leave it for NEMA, leave it for FCT, emergency management. Be prepared. Make sure that you know what to do when there's flood, when there's fire. read and update yourself, have fire extinguisher in your house, and insure your house, insure your vehicle. Transfer your risk to insurance company.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kayode Fagbemi, an expert in disaster risk reduction and retired director of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. We do appreciate his time on the program today, and that's how much we can go. We appreciate you, your contributions, your call, and for tuning in today. We come your way tomorrow again. 6 a.m. is the time. We'll go Chuku right now.
Absolutely. Chuku Majimere is my name. Bye-bye.
I am Marian Delekwe. We'll see you tomorrow. The news is up next. Top of the hour, 9 a.m. with Sufyan, bringing you up to speed and the word of news. Make sure you're tuned into Real Broadcasting Network every day, all week, all month long. From us at the Morning Edition crew, bye for now.
Always set the agenda here on the Real Broadcasting Network. See it, record it, and share it with us via the free Real Broadcasting Network mobile app for iOS and Android. It's simple. See it, record it, and share it to see it make news headlines. It is Real Broadcasting Network. We the people. This is Real 993. Time check is 9 a.m.
Every street has a story.
From our global news center, we bring you the latest happenings on the Real News.
This is the Arabian News Hour from the Real Broadcasting Network. I am Sufyan Ibrahim, and here are the top stars. President Bola Tinubu has received briefings from the Executive Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, and the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Muttaka Dama, on the management and disposal of houses seized nationwide by the Anti-Graft Agency. The meeting took place at the State House in Abuja, with the presidency saying the disposal process must follow transparency and accountability rules. The meeting marks the first public engagement between President Tinubu and Mr. Olukoyede since the president overruled the EFCC earlier this month over its handling of a court order freezing the Osun State government's account days before the August 15 governorship election. The Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAC, has shared 3.007 trillion naira in July revenue among the federal, state and local governments in this country. The committee attributes the increase in revenue sharing to improved collections from oil and non-oil statutory revenue, with gross statutory revenue rising to 4.359 trillion naira in July. The federal government receives 1.146 trillion naira, while states got 943.352 billion naira, and local government councils receive 673.649 billion naira. A further 243.478 billion naira goes to benefiting states as 13% derivation revenue. Ahead of the 2027 elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is strengthening voter education and grassroots engagement. As part of preparations for the polls, the Commission holds a voter education, publicity, and gender and inclusion implementation meeting. Arabian correspondent Dorothy Monday reports.
With barely 5 months to the 2027 elections, INEC is rolling out strategies focused on implementing a large grassroots reach. Now, Dayo Detola, Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman INEC, spoke on INEC's goal towards the forthcoming elections.
Beyond traditional announcement style of publicity into aggressive daily civic education that demystifies our technology, such as the BVAS and IREF, and reinforces the integrity of the open secret ballot system.
Meanwhile, William Ifoga says the voter education publicity and gender inclusion general election implementation meeting highlights the importance of inclusion of persons with disabilities and all-round education of the use of BVAs to improve voting experience.
Especially for those with disability, we want to ensure that our implementers, we are talking about our field officers now across the states, they are well in tune with the activities that we want to outline on how to project them and the timelines also we have, so that before the election, everyone is up to date or up to speed with what we are doing.
Now, this meeting highlights measures being put in place to support persons both with disabilities and general voter education during the election phase. As the election draws near, we hope to see more of this implementation and how it provides for free and fair elections. From Valencia Hotels in Abuja, Dorothy Monday, RB News.
On the foreign scene, the World Health Organization (WHO) has raised alarm over the spread of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC), warning that the outbreak risks reaching more countries. The WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says more than 2,300 people have died from nearly 5,000 reported cases, making it the deadliest Ebola outbreak in the country's history. The outbreak is being fueled by insecurity, displacement, and population movement, while weak health infrastructure is making the response more difficult. And that is the Arabian News Hour. Thank you for staying with us on the Real Broadcasting Network. Stay informed with more stories on our website at www.therealmediang.com. Also download the Arabian app on Google Play Store and Apple Store for iOS devices. You can also follow us across all social media platforms at The Real Media NG for real-time updates and in-depth coverage. I am Sufyan Ibrahim. Good morning.
Our Global News Center. We bring you the latest happenings on The Real News.